or your network breakfast food is horrific at the best of times.
That's
I've had
true.
some terrible meals, and our philosophy is completely different. We give the best that we can make. So and then people know that this is what they're going to get, and it's so divine. And I think a lot of people actually come back for the breakfast, not for the networking.
So is there wine at this breakfast? I just want to make sure there's wine at this breakfast.
There's always champagne.
Okay.
There's always champagne. I think one of the questions that you asked me is like, what is a wine saying for me? And that is that champagne goes with everything.
That is true. I mean, you can't say it better. So do you guys do any other events?
Oh, we do. We do themed events sometimes in summertime. Like we've hosted a most wonderful and fun Mamma Mia night, which was a dress up. I think we are starved for fun. And so we try and do a lot of fun events. We do women's events where we get women in to empower other women, and it works with the same sort of idea as the network breakfast, but specifically for women. And themes are inspire, empower, joy, those kind of ideas where we get people from our communities to come and participate, influencers, people that have a lot to say and to give on many levels. And then we have obviously goodie bags and beautiful makeup and lots of wine flowing. It's a lot of fun. And of course we host events for everybody, from christenings right through to memorial services. We are part of people's history. And we are part of those sort of memories that people have, and we are very lucky to be part of those stories.
Well, that's awesome. So tell me, I'm just wondering. You mentioned not only events but also actually I've not completely forgot what I wanted to ask you.
All right, I'm glad it's not just me.
It'll come back to me. Things have changed such a lot this year with the coronavirus, and everybody has been forced to change their business models. So have you guys, or at least rethink it, have you guys come up with any ideas or any new plans?
Well, we have to obviously rethink what we're doing because just from a practical perspective. And so when we open next week, we will be running with a smaller menu just to get started with, because we don't really know what to expect. Are we going to have 50 people? Are we going to have 20 people? Are we going to have no people? So it's very hard to know what to do. And so we're going to just open with as much faith as we can muster. And we're going to run with a smaller menu and a smaller staff, just like we did before we had the lockdown, where we had to go smaller and move our tables and all of that. So it will be very much the same. But yeah, in many ways, this has been a great opportunity to look at what you're doing and see what you can do different. We've been on the hamster wheel for 19, nearly 20 years. And what can often happen is that you can kind of just get caught up with the momentum. And this lockdown has given us a chance to step off and to relook at what we're doing and what we want to do. And also, what do we really want to do differently? We've got 20 years experience to look back on. Maybe we can make some changes. So the first thing that we've done is we've actually painted the restaurant just to give it a fresh new feel. And we're going to change all the pictures, and we're going to just make it look clean and beautiful and lovely. And I think just from a sort of spiritual perspective, it changes things. Do you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, no, I understand exactly. It's like like I say, change is as good as holiday, and I think that's right. I think in this scenario where people would like just to see. I think there's something to say to go back to things that that you are used to, but also to have places change and looking progressive. I think that is great.
Yeah. Well, we have to change, menus and things like that. So we
Mm.
just decided that we would go with this really clean, beautiful look. I'm a photographer as well, so I've got 20 years worth of beautiful photos of this estate, which I have to say is truly, a photographer's paradise, because every day is different and every season is just better than the last. So we're going to, just give a new feel to an old favorite.
So did the lockdown give you some time to sort your photos that you never got time for?
The 50,000 photos, hell.
Oh my word. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of photos. Well, we've done some lovely new things. We've done some wallpapers with, when you do big take a picture and you make it as big as the wall.
Yeah.
So we've done that. That's really beautiful. But
Wow.
yeah, we're going to go with we've got a few photos to look through and
That's
make some
amazing.
decisions. Yeah.
So actually, just remembered what I wanted to ask you. You mentioned influencers,
Hmm.
and I was wondering, you said you do the marketing for the restaurant and stuff like that. Do you
Hmm.
and this I think falls in with what's happening, right? Everybody now are even more on their phones and on online than they've ever been before. So do you guys
Hmm.
use things like social media and influence and marketing and stuff like that in your business?
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Absolutely. We are on every platform that there is, from
Okay.
Instagram to Pinterest. We have a very big following on Instagram as well as on our Facebook page, and a very what is the word I'm looking for? When you have a lot of back and forth. I
Hmm.
can't think of the word. Anyway,
Engagement.
engagement. Thank you. I couldn't think of the word. So there's a lot of engagement, and I always say in my kitchen, I'm the only one who's allowed to be on my phone, because I'm the one who's actually speaking to our customers out there in the big world. And yeah, we are very, 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 well, let's put it this way. I love social media. I think
Well,
it's one of the funnest, most quickest way to engage with your clientele.
Well, I think the magic word there is engagement, because most people think social media is you post something and you forget about it, but actually it's not. It's talking to people, answering
Mm-mm.
their comments, and actually speaking to them. And it's like the fastest way, like you say, to actually talk to people. You can start today and talk to 100 people if you really want to. You
Absolutely.
just need to
Well, I
make
have
the
to
effort.
say, in all our years of having our restaurant, we've never paid for marketing. Um, we've never gone with a big marketing campaign, or
Hmm.
spend 20,000 rand on marketing. We've never done that. We've always used what's called guerrilla marketing. I don't know if you know the term,
Yeah.
but I am like the ultimate guerrilla marketer.
So every
So
time if you say the word guerrilla marketing, I think about, the guys do it at the rugby stadiums. You're sitting there, next minute there's people jumping up in yellow t-shirts that were supposedly come to watch the rugby, but meanwhile they bought the tickets was paid for by some marketer that wanted
uh,
to advertise a new cell phone or orange juice or whatever.
well, I don't know if that's guerrilla marketing as much as harassment.
That's true, right? That's more like
But yeah.
jumping onto somebody else's bandwagons, a type of
Yeah,
marketing. Mm.
absolutely. No, I think I think for me, guerrilla marketing is just about being consistent and showing up all the time. And
Well, like you said, engagement with your customers, right?
yeah.
Actually talking to them, asking them what they want, and then giving that to them in their products. I think that is the
Mm,
most
mm,
important thing.
mm, absolutely. And it's such fun, if you post something. Say I posted a picture of a chocolate mousse last week, and the comments, the people just love it. People love food pictures. It always amazes me.
Well,
They love to look at them as much as they love to eat them.
Instagram is just a wonderful place for food, right? And I think
Mm.
you as a photographer, obviously, it speaks to you as well, and you appreciate the platform for the visual. Um,
Oh yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's absolutely a
Some
visual
very
platform.
talented people.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
unbelievable. Anyway, so the most important thing that you've learned from your journey there at the restaurant and in the winelands.
Ooh, that's a big question. I think consistency. I think if I've learned anything about this, about being at a job that's fairly stressful and demanding, but also incredibly fulfilling, is consistency. In order to maintain your level of customers and to make people happy, you have to produce the same standards every single time. And I think that can get a bit tricky, because some days are good days and some days are bad days. But for the most part, you've got to get it right 99% of the time. So for me, it's been about consistency, passion and consistency. Yeah.
And that's awesome. So you cheated by giving me your champagne quote right in the beginning. But that's great. So tell us, if people want to get hold of you guys, how did they get hold of you?
Well, obviously we're on social media. We're on Facebook. We have our own page, the Avontuur Estate Restaurant. On Instagram, also Avontuur Estate Restaurant. They're all the same, and Twitter, as well as Pinterest. But right now our phone lines are down, so I'm going to give you an alternative number if anybody wants to phone and reserve for next Wednesday. Can I give it to you?
Yes, please do.
The number is 083 508 1525, or you can email us at openhand@polka.co.za.
I love that open hand one. So we'll put all the links down in the description so people can get that, and I'll make sure the phone number are in there as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, Zunia, are you doing anything special now that you're opening that you want to tell listeners about, or you know what?
I think the fact that we're opening is special.
That's
we're
true,
just so
right?
happy to be opening, you know. So we're not doing any specials as such. We'll just be running with our menu just slightly smaller. And yeah, we cannot wait to see our friends and our loyal customers again, because we've missed them a lot.
Okay, I'm sure they're going to flood you, because I think people want to get out and people want to go to places. So as long as you haven't taken the duck off the menu, I think everything will be fine.
Our takeaway menu as well, and it's the most popular, and it's a winner. You can't say it's delicious.
Yeah, no, I can vouch for that. Zunia, thank you very, very much for spending the time with us. And yeah, I mean, we will put, like I said, we'll put all the links down in the description, and we appreciate, I know you're busy, so thank you for spending the time. Yeah.
You're very, very welcome. Thank you so much for having me. I've enjoyed our chat.
Thank you for supporting our show. If you would like to get more exposure for your business, please have a look at our sponsorship options. Thanks again for supporting About the Winelands. Please follow us on YouTube and on our social media channels. All details and links are in the description. Welcome to About the Winelands. In this show, we'll be chatting to leaders, influencers, wine producers, restaurants, wineries businesses, and other role players. Tune in every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday for our latest episodes. You will find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram TV, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. Good day, everyone, and welcome back to About the Winelands. Today, I'm talking to S.J. Kruger. S.J. is a owner and founder of Late Bloomer Boutique Winery. Hi, S.J. Thank you for visiting us.
Thank you very much for having me.
It's a pleasure. So, S.J., tell us a little bit more about yourself and how did you get involved in the wine industry?
So basically, where Late Bloomer started is in a garage in Johannesburg. My father actually started making wine in his garage in Johannesburg. I mean, he spent some time on a wine farm, learned how to do it, and then he used to bring his grapes to Joburg and make it himself. Where I got involved is obviously we started liking his wine, and we thought, hey, he's actually got some talent in making the wine. And me and a few friends own a wedding venue in Pretoria, and we wanted to kind of see if we could make the wine there. But just the cost of getting the grapes and the barrels and equipment there was so expensive that we decided to go to Stellenbosch and do it there. And then people started liking the wine, and that's where we are now. Growing the winery, growing the brand a little bit.
So did you guys move down to Stellenbosch?
Yes, my dad stays in Stellenbosch. I'm still in Pretoria. Still have some other things to do here as well, other businesses and a full-time job as well.
Okay, so you're quite busy. So tell me, it's an amazing story, you know. There's not a lot of guys that started making wine in a garage. How did you, was your dad always interested in wine, or where did this interest come from?
Yeah, so he's got a passion for wine. He loves wine. He's always, I think myself and even my brother and some of my friends, we got the wine passion and the interest from him. He's always wanted to do it. Since I can remember, he was always telling us how he's going to learn to make wine. And I think in the ripe age of 52, he decided it was time for him to learn how to make his own wine.
That's awesome. And you yourself, are you a wine lover as well?
Yes, I'm a wine lover. I'm not a wine maker, but I do love wine. I love good wine. I like the story, and I like the skill and the craft that goes into making it.
Okay, so it seems like Late Bloomers is very much a family business. So can you tell us a bit more about Late Bloomers? How many people are involved, and what are the roles of each of you?
So basically, we've got my dad is making the wine mostly on a part-time basis down at Stellenbosch. We also get some assistance from the cellar. We share a cellar with some other wineries, get a lot of assistance and advice from the guys that have got lots of experience there. And then basically it's me and three friends who invested in the winery and to get it going.
Okay, and are you involved in the business as well, in the marketing or any other aspects of the business?
Yeah, so I basically run the marketing side of it. You've got Esther that you've obviously now dealt with, who sets it up, is our social media guy. And then, most of the marketing, sales, a lot of the planning stuff. Every year when we sit down to decide what we're going to do is basically me and my dad, and we decide what worked the previous year and what we're going to do this year. So I run most of the business side of it and a little bit of the finance and so on.
How long have you guys been going?
I think the first bottle of wine was made in 2012, and then we decided in 2015 when the opportunity came along for us to expand this maybe and turn it into a business and a dream. The passion, the dream we wanted to have a winery. So in 2015, I think we sold our first bottles under the Late Bloomer label. In 2016, we started actually selling it.
Oh, excellent. So tell me, your winemaking philosophy at Late Bloomers, how would you describe that?
So we want to make wine for drinking. We used to joke and say, no, awards are for ponies and wine is for drinking. I think that's basically our philosophy, is to say we want people to enjoy the wine. We're not making wine to go and get a bunch of awards, but we want people to drink the wine, have stories, great memories, get families to get together, open wine. We love nothing more than getting photos from our clients who basically tell us how they're enjoying the wine. So it's great having awards, and I think we want to get to a point where we actually are able to kind of enter some of competitions with our wine, but the goal for us, the main philosophy is to make wine that people can enjoy with their family and friends.
Okay, interesting. So, can you tell us a bit more about the wines that you make, and especially about the one called the Farnese Fusion range? That sounded
Sure.
quite interesting.
Yeah, so basically we currently we're making 5 wines. We're adding another one, but basically we've got a Sauvignon Blanc called Summer. Basically, it's a nice fruity, it's an easy drinking wine, some real summer wine that you can have on your slip on a hot day. I mean, we've got a rosé called Candy Floss. A lot of people think it's sweet, but it's actually not. It's got a nice sweet aroma, but actually it's a dry, light rosé. This year we made it from Pinot Noir grapes. We've got a Syrah. Grapes come from Elgin, so we've made it a nice light, not a heavy full-bodied Shiraz, but a nice light Syrah. We've got Mengsel, which is like a Bordeaux-styled wine, a little bit more full-bodied. It's a blend Merlot, Cab, Petit Verdot. And then the Farnese Fusion, which is our flagship, is basically named after my grandfather, Farnese. I think he instilled a lot of the passion we've got for wine and the craft and the skill that goes into it. And we basically took his 3 favorite cultivars, which is Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, and Shiraz, and made an equal blend of the 3. We wanted to make something that was really easy to drink, and as easy to drink as it was spending time with him. He was an extremely gentle soul. We wanted that to come through in the wine.
So did you also make wine in his garage?
No. He just liked drinking it, but no, he did not make wine.
Okay. So your typical customer that you have, what does that customer look like?
So we've had a mixed bag, if I put it that way. We've had people, young people, older people, all across South Africa. Our wines are a bit lighter though than some of the other farms in South Africa. So we haven't really necessarily made wine for the heavy wine drinkers who like the full-bodied, heavy tannin wine. So it's normally people that like something a little bit lighter and easier to drink, if I put it that way. But yeah, we are releasing a new cab which will probably appeal to the heavy wine drinkers this year.
So, I mean, wine is quite a competitive industry. So how did your dad start selling his wine? Family and friends, or how did he manage to build a market? It's quite interesting.
Yeah, so when he started making wine, I think he used to tell us a story, a bit of a joke, and he said he thought he could make the wine cheaper because, I mean, he likes drinking wine. So if he could make the wine cheaper and drink it himself, then buying everyone else's wine, I mean, it'd be a win for him. And it turned, and obviously he kept on handing the wine out to his friends. He wasn't selling it, and it kind of built up a following, and people always wanted his wine. And people started saying, but listen, my friends came to me and said, "Hey, can I buy some of your dad's wine?" And that kind of started the thing of saying, but hey, maybe it's something we can do. I mean, it's been a dream for us. It's a pipe dream, so maybe it's something we do. We start making wine to sell, and yeah, here we are.
That's amazing. So, are you selling only in the local market, or are you exporting as well?
At the moment, we're still very small, and I don't think we really produce enough to export. But the goal is to eventually get to a point where we can export our wines and kind of create a bit of a global, client base.
So you're involved in marketing at the moment. So what is your strategy in terms of marketing? Do you find that avenues like social media and that are growing in importance?
Yes, definitely. I think we've been lucky because we've had our wedding venue, which is extremely popular in Gauteng, and 80% of our guests have been ordering our wine. So we've kind of been getting that exposure there in the area in Gauteng, and we've kind of, through that, we've gotten a lot of return customers. We do a lot of pop-up tastings and events, and we kind of created a bit of a loyal client base that keep on coming back for wine to us. And that's kind of allowed us to not focus too much on social media, but I think with the current circumstances, we've had to up our game on the social media and online platforms. And I can already see the exposure we're getting and a lot more people that are interested and curious about our wine. So, I mean, social media, I think, is going to be play a massive impact in everyone in the wine industry in the next few months or even years.
So your avenues has been basically through your wedding venue and direct to customers that buy directly from you. You're not using any distributors at the moment, right?
No. We like I said, we're still fairly small. I mean, and we kind of build up a client base that we focus on, and servicing them and growing that client base. I mean, I think at one stage I probably know 90% of our customers. I mean, every time we sell a bottle of wine to someone, we follow up with a WhatsApp saying, "Hey, did you actually enjoy it? Give me good feedback, bad feedback." And we've kind of I think the story behind the wine is what got people get people hooked on it.
That's interesting. So, your wedding venue at the moment, is that still closed?
Yes, we've closed obviously now with the COVID-19 lockdown.
And no idea when you're going to open yet, right?
No, so there's a coffee shop portion and a pizzas and so on that are been selling on takeaway, and then obviously now with the restaurants open, we will probably open the coffee shop. It's also on a farm with cycling trails and so on, so it actually allows us to open that up a little bit.
Okay, but you won't be able to sell wine there.
No, we don't sell wine obviously for on consumption, but for off consumption we do. I mean, like I said, a lot of our customers know that we've got the wine, so they do come and order from us.
Okay, that's interesting. Well, we're talking about the lockdown and everything. I mean, the coronavirus has forced everyone to, rethink about their businesses. I mean, you basically um, um, just told me you've got a wedding business, which is basically still in lockdown, and then also your wine business. Have you guys made any plans, new ideas to what are you thinking in this time?
Yeah. So in terms, like I said, in terms of our market strategy, we've kind of been communicating directly and building relationships with our customers, and we deliver at their houses. We're lucky that we've got the restaurant here in Pretoria that we can actually use as a kind of distribution point for Gauteng. But yeah, we're focusing mostly online. I mean, we're not a wine farm. We're a winery. We're not open to the public at the winery. Most of our events and tastings have been pop-up tastings and so on. And I think we'll probably keep staying that way. We want to be flexible, nimble. I mean, if the market changes or the circumstances changes, we want to be able to change with it. And I think being online is probably the easiest way for a small winery like ourselves to do that and keep in touch and build and maintain those relationships with our customers and leverage off that.
Do you have an online shop where customers can order directly, or how does ordering work?
Yes, so you can order online from our website, and then we also obviously take a lot of emails, get emails with our customer base and WhatsApps, and then we are busy with one or two other platforms, online platforms, also to start selling it. That's not our website, but it's also online stores.
Okay, that's amazing. Do you have anything special that you're offering at the moment, or specials for customers or anything like that at the moment?
Yes. So at the moment, we're running a special on our summer Sauvignon Blanc. We call it I Really Miss Summer, seeing that it's been really cold in Gauteng for the last few weeks. And if you buy 12 bottles, we give you free delivery and 10% discount. We're also running a competition until the end of the year for everyone that subscribes to our newsletter. We're sharing the stories of the different wines on our newsletter and some stories about the team and so on. And if you subscribe, you can win a mixed box of wine every month until December. So we're doing that, and then at the end of this month, we're releasing our new Fonnie's Fusion blend, which will probably have a nice special on, and then also the new signature cab that's coming out later, which will be quite special. So only 2,500 bottles will be made of that.
Okay, and do you deliver countrywide, or do you have only?
Yes, we deliver countrywide. Obviously, in the big metro areas like Western Cape and Gauteng, we can do free delivery, but we can ship anywhere in the country.
Okay, so you use a courier service. How are you finding logistics at this stage? Because I've been speaking to a lot of, I talk to a lot of wineries, obviously, and lots of them complain about logistical nightmare at the moment of actually getting deliveries done.
Yeah, so it has been tough. I think the couriers are extremely busy because a lot of people are ordering online. So it's been slightly slower than normal, but we've been able to get good service from the couriers that we've used.
Okay. And your long-term vision for late bloomers, where do you see your business going and your brand going?
So I think we set ourselves like a medium-term goal of a number of bottles that we want to get to that we sell every month. So, and we built our kind of sales and everything based on our customer base and how we want to grow that kind of loyal customer base to a certain point, and how many boxes of wine we would like them to order a month. But I think eventually we would like to become a global brand and export our wines to different countries. I mean, I have people that have inquired from the US and from Europe and also from countries like Australia. It's just getting to a point where we produce enough and that we can actually make a profit out of it is still the challenge for us to get to.
Yes, I think that is the first hurdle, is getting, making enough wine. So, yeah. I mean, you've had quite an interesting start in the wine business. Like you say, your dad started in his 50s. and you've been involved right from the beginning when you started. So what is the most important thing that you've learned from this journey?
So me and the rest of my business partners, even my dad, I mean, we come from high pressure industries where things need to happen quickly. There's no time to wait for anything, anyone. And I think, time is money, but with wine, I mean, there's a lot of waiting and a lot of being patient. And I think that's the one thing that we've had to learn with the winemaking is you need to appreciate time more. I mean, you need to slow down slightly, enjoy the process of making the wine, of tasting it, of seeing it develop and grow. And that's the thing for me. We've learned to appreciate time and the craft and that goes into it.
I think that's right. I mean, I just spoke to a winery this morning, and the guys mentioned the same thing, right? They said patience is the big thing required, because I think people forget that making wine is actually still the agricultural activity. You know, it's like it's almost like a seasonal activity. You've got to wait for the harvest, and then the wine has to ripen. You know, everything has to happen. So that's quite interesting. If you can give me a wine quote, what would that be?
I don't really have a favorite wine quote, but I do love the stories that we get back from our customers. And
tell us one. I'd love to hear one of your stories.
Sure. I think one of the biggest things for us is like with the new Fonnies. I sent out the new Fonnies, and it's always great getting the feedback. I mean, one of my good friends just sent me a WhatsApp the other day saying, "Oh, it's such a smooth wine, and it's so nice and easy to drink." And I think that's the one thing for us where we could say, actually, that's exactly what we wanted to achieve, is create something that's smooth and easy to drink. I mean, some of the stories of the weddings we've had, I mean, it's been quite a journey, and you'll see that's why our slogan is, there's a story in every bottle. What's yours? And we really want people to tell us, hey, actually, I had this story. My sister came over for the first time in a year, and we actually opened one of your wines, and we had just a good evening, and it was actually such a great created such good memories out of it.
Do you ever ask your customers to record these stories and send them to you?
We ask for short feedbacks on the stories, but yeah, we haven't necessarily asked them to record it, but we have one or two that's actually given us a little bit more detail on it and so on.
I think that could be a good marketing strategy, getting some video where people actually, say something within your brand, especially in today's environment. I think that could work very, very well.
Yeah. We have some videos that we want to record at the end of July that's coming up, but we'll probably start releasing some of those ones in September, October, so on, some roundabout there.
You mentioned that you've got a new wine coming out. What is that? What is that going to be?
So we have actually got a new Fonnies Fusion coming out the end of this year, which we actually took 2 years wines and blended together to get the taste we wanted. And then we've got a signature cab that's coming out. It's been on oak for 18 months. It's a little bit more full-bodied that we're bringing out. And then later this year, we're going to bring out a new rosé. Last year we made it all. The current rosé we've made out of Pinot Noir, but we're going to actually change that Pinot Noir rosé now into an MCC over the next few years. And we're experimenting with a new blend of taking a Merlot Sauvignon Blanc and making the Canny Floss into a bit of a blended, like more of a blush type of rosé. So we've got 3 wines coming out now, probably in the next 2-3 months.
Oh, okay, that's amazing. Jay, how do people get hold of you guys if they want to order wine?
So we are on Facebook. I think it's Late Bloomer Boutique Winery, as well as Instagram, and then our website, which is latebloomerwines.com. And people can email us there, or they can contact us through social media as well.
So they can DM you if they want something.
Yeah.
So just repeat that offer you have again, that special. I mean, that would be nice for people. It sounded actually quite nice.
Yeah, we've got the I Really Miss Summer special, which is 12 bottles of our Summer Sauvignon Blanc for 10% discount and free delivery.
We all miss summer, right? I can't wait for summer to start this year and maybe get back to normal. Thank you so much for your time. And
thanks for having me.
No, it's a pleasure. I know you guys are busy, and good luck with everything. Good luck getting your wedding business back on track as well. I suppose that's a different challenge. But thank you for speaking to us, and I think our listeners will find this interesting.
Awesome, thanks.
Thank you for supporting our show. If you would like to get more exposure for your business, please have a look at our sponsorship options. Thanks again for supporting About the Winelands. Please follow us on YouTube and on our social media channels. All details and links are in the description. Welcome to About the Winelands. In this show, we'll be chatting to leaders, influencers, wine producers, restaurants, winelands businesses, and other role players. Tune in every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday for our latest episodes. You will find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram TV, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. Good day, everybody, and welcome back to About the Winelands. Today I'm talking to Arco Laarman from Laarman Wines. Welcome to About the Winelands, Arco.
Hi. Well, thanks for having me on your talk.
No, thank you for taking the time. I know you're busy. I'd really love to know, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got involved in winemaking and in the wine industry?
Yeah, look, funny enough, I'm not actually not from the Cape. There are a couple other winemakers that are not Capies, but I was born up in Joburg, in Roodepoort, and my brother was a Navy diver. We used to come on holiday a lot down to the Cape as a family when we used this flat. And towards the end of our school holidays, obviously, it's family outings. You followed the parents around. We ended up going to the winelands for a day, and I was at that time probably like 8 or 9. Walked into a cellar, and it must have been just before or after harvest. You can get a typical cellar smell. I'll never forget that. And I looked at this and never knew of it as a career choice. Even more so when I went back to school up in Joburg, and they didn't even know what it was. They thought winemakers were just like mechanics that work in the background. And I started in high school and was already reading the wine magazine. I remember the first one that came out was Peter Ferreira on the front cover. And yeah, my mom has always been very free to let us follow our own paths. And what happened is the plateau was still very thin in 95, and there wasn't emails yet. So we set up a letter and sent out faxes to potential farms that I just sort of earmarked in the plateau, and came up to Kaapstad, the Statler family. And I was obviously just out of matric, 19, and they took me on more. It was actually Ingvild, Dani's wife, that sort of pushed me more as help for Dani. Dani Senior had never had anyone before, and I then took a job there more as eyes for people stealing wine out the cellar. But it was then I actually ended up staying 3 years with them and became part of the family. And really, I'm very close to Dani Jr. We sort of brothers from another mother type thing, because he was in standard 7 or 8 when I met him. And when he realized that as a winemaking family, he took it for granted almost that you're born in this industry. But then he saw the passion that I had for not having that, call it generational right to take over a farm. And it really drove to him that he understood that he had a great opportunity within his family to start, and that's where he is, and he's doing a great job running the family business there now. Spent 3 years with them, and then worked for a mobile bottling company. Was very interesting. Got to meet a lot of different farms that you would not have necessarily have known from. That's how I met David from Glencarlo. They didn't have a bottling line at that time, and he sort of offered me a job after seeing how I worked on the line and that. And I was a little wary. I said no the first time, and then did a bottling again with him, and he sort of pressed again, and it's like, oh, and I said, okay, well, let's go for it. So then I actually, before starting at Glencarlo, which was middle of 99, I then went to America to Hess Collection, which was part of the Glencarlo group in those early years, and did a harvest there. And we started at Glencarlo in 2000, and then did vintages in Australia, France, Germany, and Austria over the couple of years. And then Glencarlo started getting quite large, and David Finnison, the whole farm was sold in the early the mid 2000s, and then David left in 2009, and I took over as head winemaker and continued there until 2016. The reason I left Glencarlo was I'd been there 17 years. It was like almost part of the furniture. And I decided if I don't do it now, I'll regret it. So I decided to start my own company, which was when I started Lahman Wines. First vintage was 2017. So I finished at Glencarlo end of 2016, and Lahman Wines is still, it's only year 3 now. But that's where I am. So I buy wines from different regions. I'd only worked with Paarl grapes for so many years that it was not time to say, well, let's try and do Chardonnay from a cooler climate. There's a couple of independents that are multi-regional, which is also interesting, and it gives you a bit of diversification of working with a specific variety in a different area.
Wow, this is interesting. So I just want to know, Arco, if you knew from a young age that you're going to be in the wine industry. At what age did you start drinking wine?
It's funny. My parents were not big wine drinkers. My heritage is Dutch. Arco is obviously an unusual name. It's sort of a mix from Anco and Arno. Then Lahman. There's not many Lahmans in the country, but the interest I had actually sort of made interest in my parents, so that they live up. They moved to Cosmos in Hartbeespoort with them. They've got a beautiful guest house there. They actually literally put a cellar into the mountain for the guests, but for myself to play a bit. And yeah, I didn't actually drink a lot of wines until I started at Kaapstad. I would more manage their sort of cellar, so I would see certain wines ahead, and then let's keep that, and let's see if that's going to stay. And my dad also into the Chateau Libertas box competition, not box, I mean like a wooden box, not bag in the box, but it was a wine magazine competition. I had to use my dad's details because it was still underage. And then he got this letter that we were one of the 50 guys to win this box. And it's actually a beautiful Chateau Libertas vintage, when it still had those gold Superior stickers from 1982, 3, 4, 5, 6 vintages of 6 bottles. My dad almost threw it away because he thought it was a promotion, but then he actually saw that we won this thing, and it was me as a minor that's now trying to win competitions out of the wine magazine.
Well, that's fantastic. So tell us a bit, how you started Lahman Wines, the wines you are making, and also, your winemaking philosophy.
Look, a lot of it comes from my philosophy in wine is also more driven towards the varieties that I work with. To be fair, my company is only 3 years old now. There are certain wines and projects still up and coming, but obviously having spent 17 years at Glencarlo, Chardonnay became part of my blood. It's obviously one of the strongest products for Glencarlo. And so Chardonnay is for me very important in my business. And I started, like I said, in the beginning of 2017. I had my sort of entry level. I've got 2 ranges. So I've got my entry level or mid range called Cluster Series, which was a Chardonnay from Pekingese Kloof. Well, the first year was actually from Elgin, and then the 17 is from Pekingese Kloof, and a Cab, which the initial vintage was Paarl, and now it's Stellenbosch. And then my second range is the Focal Point wines, and those are very more site specific as well, with a Chardonnay from a region called Vermakelijkheid. I'm sure you've heard of it. There near Riversdale on the Duivenhoeks River. And then a Cinsault, which I did in 2017, which was Stellenbosch. In 2018 is Achterperl, beautiful bush vine stuff. And then an old vine Shannon from a block in Paarl, as old as me. I was born in 1977, so it's a 43-year-old vineyard. And my philosophy is, look, keep things simple. It's interesting. I always dealt with, you get all the smokers coming to sell you additives and barrels and staves and this and that. And I believe that wine is a natural product. If you have good grapes, you can bring all the flavors you need direct from the vineyard by not having to add anything that you would maybe see in a cooperative situation. I do use cultivated yeast with my Chardonnay, because Chardonnay is a neutral variety. So I do experiment with different yeast strains. But otherwise, a lot of my stuff is also natural fermentation. But people must forget, people talk about natural wines, yeast is natural. So whether it's cultivated by Anchor, as long as it's not a GMO, it is the same thing as a natural yeast, but it's just been gone through a process where it is more active than natural ones. But there's definitely differences in that, and I'd like to get diversity in my Chardonnay to get different flavor components out of it from the yeast and from the barrels.
Very interesting. You mentioned that you're looking at wines from different areas, and specifically wines that are grapes that come from a specific place. Can you explain to us what Cape Sites is and how that works?
It's called Cape Site Specific. It's a group that we started, me and probably about eight producers at the time. It was more about sharing a standard Cape wine, but as we know, wine is sold by stories and philosophies and that. And what we put together is a group that believe in wines with a sense of place. So to be part of this group, your wines have to qualify for their origins. So you can't have wines from Western Cape or blended between Paarl and Stellenbosch. The minimum criteria is that it must be at least wine of origin Stellenbosch, but the best thing is to go from there to Ward to as close as you can to single vineyard. So I have a wine that comes from a single vineyard, not it's not been certified yet for the 2020 vintage. It's a single vineyard, which is that old vine Shannon I was talking about. So the more specific you get and the more driven to the site is the story. So we're now on our 4th year together. Very different under the circumstances with COVID. We're all working from home and talking to each other. It's funny, the winemakers are always very social people, and I actually went out yesterday to go and do something, but we don't see each other as much as we did in the past. But yeah, we're all like-minded and like to have wines with a sense of place. That's the most important message that we're trying to push through into the market.
So Cape Sites, is that official? Is that an organization with a brand? Is it branded, certified? Is it a non-profit? How does it work?
It's called Cape Site Specific, and it's set up as a company, as an organization, and we all of us pay a fee to be part of it. And if we want to do an event, then it's like pay as you go, in whether you want to do it or not. And look, the idea for us is actually sort of to have a good pool of money from all of us together, and then to invite people from overseas and sort of work together with Warsaw to create content. Like the Swartland has done really, really well. Like, you need to create content in the industry to be able to tell your stories and that. So that's how it's been driven. It's not about making money. It's just about making it operate under our membership fees and what we're willing to take part in as a member.
So are the wines labeled in some way so that you can see it? How does the consumer know this comes, or is it how does that work at the moment?
We haven't gotten to that stage yet where we have a seal or something. It's not like the Old Vines group yet. But you bring up a good point. We don't have anything specifically on our labels yet that mention that. It's more about the events that we do together. But yeah, that is something we should look at maybe, is to add something onto the bottle that can at least bring you to the website to understand our philosophies, and that's similar to wine seal, the certification seal. Not everybody, we in the industry know what it stands for, but even the well-known wine, a wine drinker with knowledge doesn't fully understand what even the seals that we have on the labels actually represent. But that's all about getting the message out there, and that's yeah.
It's like you say, it's creating content and raising awareness. It's like anything, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, yeah.
So, okay, your wines, where are you selling? Are you selling in the local market only? Are you exporting? How do you work?
I think we all know that the South African market is pretty flooded. I think if you think now, I think the latest number I heard was 6,000 different wines available under different brands and that type of thing. So my focus was really to drive the international market side. So my wines are local and international, but I'm really pushing on the export side. I export to Belgium, Mauritius, UK, trying to get into Holland, America I'm still working on. But yeah, export is important, but then local as well. But obviously being a small independent producer, I'm not going to be selling at the macros and doing pallet deals and that type of thing. So it's more your independent. So the well-known guys like Wine Menu up in Joburg, all the wine concept stores down here, 1 or 2 liquor cities, the well-known one in Claremont, Liquor City, he's got best range of wines, largest range of wines and gins and all sorts of things. So he's always keen to take on new wines. And then obviously direct consumers, where we and any winery makes the best margins is with, if you have a cellar door or do events that you drive your direct sales, which is something I'm very much focusing on, which I think we all are now in this COVID thing, is that online wine sales have increased dramatically, and online wine shops, just trying to push those sales that you're not getting in the restaurants anymore, or the reduction of availability in the liquor stores, and only having a 5-day, 4 days. You can only buy alcohol 4 days of the week. So yeah, I don't know, for the bigger guys to work out budgets in that this year, I'm glad I know I've got only a certain amount of wine to sell, but for the big boys, it's a bit scary.
Yeah, you don't want to sit with a cellar full of wine when you get your next harvesting, right?
No, exactly. Yeah.
I think what's interesting to me is that you mentioned direct to consumer, which you're right. It's growing a lot, but also you said events. So do you do pop-up tastings?
Yeah, I actually had just started that just before the lockdown. I did my first one at the winery where I buy the Chenin from. Then my idea was to do it at certain, either to use a restaurant or certain of the guys like the Sommelier Association in Stellenbosch, or a wine bar somewhere that uses my wines and that. So that was the idea, is once a month to do like a pop-up tasting. But that's all gone at the moment. So we don't know when we can all have a glass of wine together with a meal, or get together to do a tasting. So yeah, that is the way. I haven't been doing a lot of online Zoom meeting tastings, that type of thing. It's very difficult to do that as well. You can't drop everybody a bottle of wine. We're, as Cape Side specifically, trying to figure out, well, let's take a 750 ml bottle and put it into 50 ml little bottles and send it out, and you do a group tasting with someone. But it's logistics and timings and all of that. And to be fair, I think people being a bit overrun with some of these things maybe. So, but yeah, it's important to get to the direct consumer.
So besides that, I see on your website you also offer winemaking consultancy service. I was wondering about that, and also, what other services do you offer?
Yeah, there's look, because I work for myself. I'm not as hectic as when I was working at Glencola. When I left there, I think we were bottling 650,000 bottles, which keeps one very, very busy. With myself, I utilize cellar space near me here in Paarl, so that keeps me busy maybe 2-3 days of the week. Obviously, wintertime is more quiet time for winemakers. You've got everything to barrel and everything self-filled up and everything safe. So I offer, any consultancy for small guys that don't have the budget for, so only producing 5 or 10 tons for a small guest house winery or whatever. So I can do little parcels for them if they have their own vineyards. And then obviously anything from packaging for other people that are looking for a winemaker that can do everything from finding bulk wines, doing bottling for them, and so on. It hasn't been such an active part of my business, but there's sort of 2-3 people that I have as a concern that I do this for now, which is great. It sort of just puts a little bit more into the bank account without having to sell wine.
Interesting. So you've mentioned the coronavirus and the lockdown a bit, and I mean, it's forced all of us to actually rethink our business models. So do you have any changes or new ideas that came to mind while you were sitting there in lockdown?
Yeah, look, there's again, I'm really pushing on the export side. There's 1 or 2 new opportunities coming my way, which will really help, because obviously we for 2 months couldn't sell anything here locally, but like in the UK, there's online companies that have been selling throughout the lockdown, and it's been like Christmas for them for the last 3-4 months. So people not going out, but people ordering wine, and we weren't able to do that. So there is definitely a demand and a bit of a gap. Unfortunately, some people did lose the business due to those 2 months where they had potential listings with some of the larger Systembolaget in Sweden and whatever. But just really looking at again, like I said earlier, that is my model, is exporting and just making that grow strength from strength in this environment at the moment.
So interesting to me is, it's European summer now, all the whole Northern Hemisphere. And this is obviously a high consumption time. So what about logistics? If you get orders now, are you managing to get them out?
There's in general, there is a bit of a bottleneck at the harbour. But since the export allowance was lifted, that we can export again, I actually I sent some wine to Belgium, and it took the usual 3-week turnaround. It wasn't too bad. Obviously, if you want to still get into that rosé season for the UK, you want the stuff on the water now before their season stops. So I don't know. I don't do rosé yet. I'm looking at doing it possibly next year. But our timings have been out because specifically those 2 months where we were not allowed to export. Definitely certain products, not only wine, but if you think of some of the beers and sort of ciders and things like that, they've lost a huge chunk of business because you've now something that should have been there 2 months ago is 2 months behind. So that's not easy.
Yeah, by the time it gets there, it's winter.
Exactly.
So that is an issue. So I mean, you've had an interesting journey in the wine industry. What is the most important thing that you've learned so far from your wine journey?
Look, the thing is that there's a lot of competition. That's I did know that before I started my own business. Winemakers can make wine, and we all can make wine, or estates can make wine, but it's another thing to sell it. It's a big part of our industry is marketing and being out there. So that's really been, it's not I'd say a life lesson in the wine industry. It's definitely, I've known it as a learning curve that you're going to be marketing all the time. But I won't regret having gotten into the industry over 20, we on? My first vintage I did was in '96. So yeah, it's a long time. I've been in PAL for 20 years. And me and my wife have now actually decided to move to a cooler area. And I think it's also more maybe part of my Chardonnay campus going on. We're going to be moving to Onrus, and I'll look at some area there to higher space and really look at cooler climate Chardonnay from Elgin or the Cape South Coast, getting a bit closer to Vermakelijkheid, so I don't have to drive as far to get the grapes. And yeah, we'll hire over there for a year and see if it works. Our daughter is not old enough to get into school. Actually, she's still young enough before she needs to start anything. And yeah, I know got good friends there. Hannes Storm, obviously the Finnersons from Creation, I know well. So if they can do it, I'm sure it's possible. So that's hopefully the next 20 years in my wine journey.
Well, I just want
at that.
I just wanted to ask you that because, I mean, you're still young and your business is even younger. So what is your long-term vision? Where are you going to take Larman Wines? What is your plan?
Yeah, obviously to make it as profitable as possible. What I've actually done with my packaging is, if you look at the labels, it's very much driven on the names. So you got Focal Point Chardonnay, and the story is specific variety from a specific region, and then the cluster series, which means cluster obviously means a bunch of grapes. So I need one berry can be perfect, but you need a whole cluster to fill a glass of wine, and even more so to fill a bottle. So I use my name to endorse my wines, but I think what my plan is in the next 20 years is that if I can push these wines, get the brands strong enough out there that they can actually be freestanding brands on their own, that I don't sell my name, but I can sell those brands to someone who's interested in increasing the size of it. Or I'd have to see if my daughter wants to get into wine, but she's only 3, so I'm not going to push her on whether she's going to be in my footsteps. But
it sounds like in your family you have to start drinking at 7, right, to be a winemaker. To be a winemaker at 16.
No. So we'll see. But hopefully, yeah. Obviously, we all want to put food on our plates and have a comfortable life. And the wine industry can do that if you just keep your nose to the grindstone, create quality wines that people enjoy, and look at old vines as becoming quite a strong marketing part of South Africa. And maybe get more involved in that, looking at different regions. If you look at Chris Arlight, he lives in that area that I'm talking about, Onrus, but he's buying grapes from all the way up in Pekingese Kloof and all over. So he's also a bit more multi-regional. So that's the different side of being sort of the old 1980s landgoed or estate wines. But yeah, we'll see what happens in 20 years. We can have this conversation in 5 or 10 years from now again. It doesn't have to be that long, but hopefully I'm staying on a stronger foot, or we all are.
Yes, I really hope so. Can you give us your very own wine quote?
Yeah,
your favorite one.
I was struggling a little bit with that. My wife, I do tend to have a good sense of humor sometimes and get put in the spots, but obviously Chardonnay is a very big part of me. And there was that time when I was traveling in the US, or actually it's the US is part of the problem, is that they were making these heavy Chardonnays, over wooded, over full malolactic fermentation, too much buttonage. They made these wines that were so planky and dry that you need like 3 glasses of water with a glass of wine. And there was a stage that I'm sure you know of called ABC, anything but Chardonnay.
Mm-hmm.
And what I'm trying to see, which I did in the years of Glencairn, is reduce the wood. It needs to be part of it, but create wines with a bit more finesse, even more so now working with this Vermakelijkheid stuff, where it's on strong limestone soils, 8 kilometers as a crow flies to the sea. making Chardonnays with finesse and changing the ABC anything but Chardonnay to always buy Chardonnay.
There we go. I like that.
So that's what I'm going for.
That's your quote. Always buy Chardonnay. I love it. So, thank you very much for spending the time here. Our listeners are sitting here and they want to get hold of you, want to order your wines. How do they do that?
There's a couple of options now. Obviously, directly from me, it's www.larmanwines.com is the website. And then all the outlets I mentioned earlier. And then also recently just started with Shopstar. That's also the online way to get it. And I do tend to do my own delivery still at the moment. So if you do buy, you might actually still get to meet the winemaker dropping the wine themselves. So, but yeah, maybe direct is probably best. So look at larmanwines.com and click on to the order sheet, and me or my wife will email within a day usually, and then get the wines out. Depending on this lockdown, because you're not allowed to move it around after Thursday, but usually if one orders on a Monday, Tuesday, you'll still get it before you can't have it on Thursday after evening at 5 o'clock or whatever.
I think what you're talking about now is obviously within striking distance of Paul. What happens if people order from the outskirts of the country or even in Gauteng? How do you manage that?
Well, look, Gauteng is courier service, and that's I would say with the lockdown rules, maybe a week. Otherwise, recommend them going to the likes of Wine Menu and one or two guys are there. But the best is Dry Dock Liquors as well. They also have my wines. You can still do a week's turnaround. Once you start moving out the country, maybe more like 2 weeks and that type of thing.
Okay, awesome. Arco, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much. We'll put all the links down in the description. And yes, I'm sure people will find this interesting. Good luck with everything you're doing. And with your move to Honors. And thanks for chatting to us. And we'll definitely chat again in future.
Perfect. No, thanks for your time as well. And hopefully, I was seeing some of my wine friends yesterday. We're saying we're only going to get together at a restaurant when they allow us to have a glass of wine again. I don't know who's going to go out to a steakhouse or something and sit and drink a Diet Coke or something. You need that glass of wine or a beer, that thing. So I'm hoping for the restaurant side that this rule will be lifted quite soon as well.
Well, even worse, who goes to a wine estate and don't drink wine if you go out for lunch?
Yeah, yeah, shame. That's the thing, is even if I was at Glencarlo 2 weeks ago, yeah, they're also saying that they probably won't open the restaurant until they have got full option for people to be able to drink wines on the premises.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks, hey.
Thank you for supporting our show. If you would like to get more exposure for your business, please have a look at our sponsorship options. Thanks again for supporting About the Winelands. Please follow us on YouTube and on our social media channels. All details and links are in the description. Welcome to About the Winelands. In this show, we'll be chatting to leaders, influencers, wine producers, restaurants, winelands businesses, and other role players. Tune in every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday for our latest episodes. You will find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram TV, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. Hi everyone, about the Winelands. Today I'm speaking to De Bruin Steenkamp. De Bruin is the owner of Friesland Wines in Stellenbosch. Hi De Bruin, how are you?
Hi Will, yeah, great talking to you. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Well, welcome to About the Winelands. Our listeners will be very interested, to hear your story. And can we kick off with that? Can you tell us a bit about yourself and how you became involved in the wine industry?
Thank you. Yes, so I grew up as fourth generation on our Steenkamp family farms. That's in the Bottlery Hills outside of Stellenbosch. So we've got two family pieces of land, Groenland and Friesland, and they are adjacent. So I grew up there, and then initially I wanted to be a lawyer, so I qualified as an attorney, and I did my master's in trade law, and I decided I'd rather go into wine. So I started working for Destel. I was there for 9 years, 4 years in London, looking after the European wine business, and I met my wife there. Also did my Cape Wine Masters, and I got back, and then I worked at KWV for 7 years as head of global marketing and sales. And then I just thought it's now the time, when I turned 40, to do my own thing. So then we launched the Friesland wine brand about close to 2 years ago, say about 20 months ago. And it's been real fun. So it's me and my wife, Marilise, and my sister Maurice, who's also a winemaker.
Wow, that's awesome. So you have known from a young age that you're going to be in the wine industry, although you went and studied law, right?
Yes, yeah, listen, it's in our blood. And the nice thing now is that luckily I could use some of my experience, obviously in contracting internationally and traveling internationally and working with importers and the commercial piece and the legal piece of the business, which I think is very, very important. It's one thing making wine, but obviously to develop markets, to sell it profitably is something else. So yeah, I think that stands me in good stead.
So if I hear you correctly, Friesland is more than a wine. It's also, it's also part of the history of a farming enterprise. Can you tell us a little bit more about the history and how did you decide on the name Friesland Wines and your brand and everything?
100%. So the big farm is called Groenland. That's one down the road, and that's fourth generation. Interesting enough, it comes through the lady. So my mom grew up there. My dad came from the Karoo. And then he married my mom. My grandfather passed away, and then my dad sort of bought the farm from his in-laws. And that's where I grew up. And then my dad acquired Friesland, which is a 36 hectare farm just up the road in 1999. So Friesland came to the family business a bit later, and it's been farmed as two economic units, but by my father and my brother Piet. And then I said to my dad, before we all get too old, why don't we launch our own trademark? And then I launched Friesland, as I say, October 2018. So the vineyard or the farm has always been there, but now I've launched a trademark to go with a farm called Friesland. The nice thing is we are all from Dutch stock originally, and Friesland is a province in the northern part of the Netherlands. And the first Steenkamps came from that area in the late 1600s, so there's a nice tie back to our Dutch ancestry way, way, way back. And that's a nice story.
Do you use any of the Friesland images? I actually had a Friesland whiskey once, which was quite interesting.
No, so at the moment, no, all the imagery we use at the moment is tied back to the farm, which is the view on Table Mountain, Table Bay. There's a little windmill, there's the beautiful vineyards and all that. And then we obviously play on that Dutch heritage, but at this stage it's quite focused on the farm imagery and not yet the Dutch piece of the visuals.
So before you had your own brand, did you basically send your grapes to somebody else? Or did you sell your grapes?
Yes.
Okay, so have you established your own winery now as well with your buildings and everything? Or are you making
So that's a good question. So Groenland with Friesland have been, I think, the longest supplied to KWV, Destel, and then quite a few other smaller wineries also buy from us, very, very well-known farms. At the moment, we use the Groenland wine cellar. They've got a red wine cellar, which is gorgeous. It's a beautiful old cellar built in 1932. And we use that for making the red wines of Groenland and Friesland that's made there. We don't have a white wine cellar. So there we've got a little JV with our very good friends, Donnie Stater from Kaapstad next door. And he assists me on the white wine side. So Friesland is a virtual brand. Most of the wines come from Friesland and or Groenland, and then we add in a bit from the Botterij Hills we needed.
Okay, that's excellent. So tell us a little bit about Friesland itself. You know, I see that you're welcoming guests there. What can a guest experience in visiting you guys?
Yeah, so we decided to try and be really modern, and by that I mean two things. A, our sales strategy is focused around B2C, so direct business to consumer. So we don't really do the retail thing. We sell directly to customers and we work with wine clubs. And when it comes to the experience, it's exactly the same. We decided, obviously it's very expensive as well, but we're not going to have a big tasting room. Groenland has got a beautiful tasting room down the road, but we've got a tasting deck in the vineyards. So we're focusing more on experiences rather than, let's say, bricks and mortar. And we've got a tasting deck in the vineyards with a gorgeous little aftak lapa thingy, and you can also braai there or have snacks or whatever, and then we welcome guests and corporate groups of say 10, 20, 30, 40 people, and then we do tastings for them in the vineyards. So that's what we do. That's our angle, obviously weather permitting.
That's very interesting. I think, I mean, we know that the whole world is going from direct to consumer route. So that's a very interesting marketing perspective. Did you decide that because of your international sales experience and the way you saw the industry going?
I think so, yes. And obviously you can now see with the whole C19 thing, I think I was lucky enough that it now happened at the right time. But we just thought that's the way to go. I can see that, I mean, even if you look at Europe, where there's quite a deflationary type of environment, people can't work through middlemen all the time. And then it's also the high fixed cost when it comes to appointing salespeople and big kickbacks to trade and all that. We just can't afford that. And we just thought it just makes much more sense. And people, I think the youngsters, they are into authentic brands and perhaps not all the corporate brands, with all respect to them. So our little unique story is to have a good story to tell and go direct to the consumer.
Well, that's very interesting. I just saw online that there's a brand in the US, I don't know if you know them, called Empathy Wines. They started 18 months ago and they were sold to Constellation for 8 figures in dollars.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's a big dream, eh?
They grew Empathy Wines from nothing, you know, just a label, with the social media influence into a massive brand. And like I said, it was sold to Constellation. So there's definitely, I think this whole business to consumer thing in South Africa is still very much in its infancy and it's going to grow. So,
yes, absolutely. I can't agree more.
No.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, and then obviously I forgot to mention that what we do as part of that is we do corporate tastings. And people want to see the wine person itself. So I will go to Gauteng or in the Western Cape and I'll do tastings with people, and there's a real tangibility to the brand. And people understand it, they've seen the wine person or the owner or the winemaker, and then they get really loyal, and then it's obviously word of mouth, which is really, really powerful.
Well, that is, and that brings us to the important thing, is the actual wines. So can you tell us a little bit about the wines that you are making and also your winemaking philosophy?
Okay, so we've got 5 wines in the range. I'm quite a Bordeaux fan, and I think thinking Stellenbosch, obviously Cab and Merlot have to feature. Our Merlots are quite big and robust. And I thought on the red side, I'm going to start with the Merlot Cabernet. It's about a 51-49% blend. So our Merlots are really powerful, but they're still very silky, fruit driven, and obviously Cab jabs it for structure. So I love Bordeaux, so I've got a Merlot Cab, and as you know, Merlot's the biggest selling red variety in South Africa, and the ladies also love that. So I think that's a nice sort of unique point because we don't have so many good Merlots in South Africa. And then I've got a Sauvignon Blanc, which is really good. It's more of a tropical fruit flavor style, but it's still very dry, with a residual sugar of less than 3 grams. And that's just for really great enjoyment every day. Then we've got 2 reserve wines. The one is called Brother and Sister Shiraz Grenache, because we also like those big, hearty, sexy, spicy wines. And the Shiraz is the brother in the blend, and the Grenache, obviously the more feminine, delicate sister in the blend. And there's me and my sister Marie, a Brother and Sister. It's 85% Shiraz and 15% Grenache. And then we've got a beautiful, lightly wooded Chenin Blanc called Berg en See, Mountain and Sea. Obviously, honoring our beautiful type of mountain that we look out towards, and obviously the sea that we can see in the distance. And that's lightly oaked. And that's a straight Chenin Blanc. And then we have already bottled it, but we're releasing our top flagship, top Cabernet called the M-Class. Named after my wife, Marilise. We're going to launch that October, November this year. And I don't think we want to keep our range too big. That's really our plan. Obviously, Bottleray, Stellenbosch, well known for red variety, so there will always be a strong red wine focus. But then with the Chenin and a Sauvignon Blanc to complement.
Oh, that's awesome. So it sounds to me like when you do corporate tasting and also the way your wines are named, that you are very much focused on the local market. Is that correct, or are you exporting as well?
Yeah, it's a good question. I like the international markets a lot. I mean, obviously you get all the Forex advantages and all that in ship FOB, and there we go. But I think we all agree you do need a strong local footprint, without a doubt. So I'm focusing here. We're doing it town by town and bit by bit. So we're selling quite a lot of wine in Paarl, in Stellenbosch, and the northern suburbs, Pretoria, Johannesburg, and so forth. We've got a strong following here. And then I've had some international shipments to Scandinavia and Canada and the Middle East and all that. So definitely open for exports. I think that's also where the future lies, because the world is so massive, and I'm not sure how the economy is going to stack up in South Africa. But yes, it's very much strong footprint in SA and then rolling out internationally.
Oh, very interesting. So, I mean, you've been involved with a bunch of other stuff as well. I've seen on your website you have a thing called Banner Global Wine Solutions, which seems to me is a consultancy business. And then you're also director of a Dutch trading company. Can you tell us more about this?
Yeah, sure. So I do 4 things in one at the moment. So I've got Friesland. Then I work on a contract basis for the Terreberg Winery, which I really enjoy, because that's a different type of business. They're very big and successful, and that's more Swartland and Paarl. Then I've got Banner, where I do consultancy and I do some private label work internationally with some partners, and we're also looking at an interesting project there. And then Excels is very interesting. We are now launching. We have set up a cooperative in Netherlands. Obviously, the Netherlands is a very compliant jurisdiction, and our plan is to help agri-businesses to internationalize themselves. So I don't want to bore you with all the details, but the long and the short is, if you're a big wine, food, or fruit exporter, and you want substance in the Netherlands, and have a real legitimate basis there, and you want to tie into preferential debtors financing, trade financing, capital grants, and all that, and have bank accounts internationally, then we can help you set that up. And that's quite exciting.
That's a very interesting business, and I think one for the future. Do you guys have a warehousing in the Netherlands as well, or is it just a office?
Yes, so outsource. So what we do is we have got suppliers that will still ship directly to their, say, retailers in Europe or otherwise, and then we will just manage sort of the finance piece in the middle. But yes, we have got a strong logistic partner with warehousing set up in the Netherlands. So yeah, it's a bit of both.
And you do all kinds of agricultural products.
Yes.
I understand fruit and so. What about things like flowers? Are you involved with that as well?
That as well. We haven't got flowers on board yet, but yes, all agri goods, even innovative things, whether it's pulp or extracts or whatever it may be. So it's everything within the agri space we do.
No, that's very interesting. Okay, that's all of this has been turned on its head in the last few months, or this year, with the coronavirus, right? I mean, it's been turning the whole world on its head, and it's forced all of us to rethink our business models. Have you given any thought, or are you coming up with any new ideas in this area because of this?
Yes. So on the one hand, I think business to consumer is going to be increasingly important, and by that I mean it's a very strong e-commerce solution. So if I was sort of convinced before, I'm now very convinced. So I would strongly advise you need an e-commerce solution where you sell online direct to consumer. There's no other way to go. I'm not sure how well the on-trade is going to recover or how quickly. Retail, yes, retail will always be there, but obviously they're also now under pressure with the lockdown. So you need a very, very strong e-commerce solution. And I still believe there's value to be found in people that's got a strong brand recognition, that like the people behind the brand and that pass on the message. And obviously, I don't need to tell you that the margins are also a bit better. Obviously, if you go through all these other channels or middlemen, there's not a lot of money left at the end. So the direct way of going, I think, is the way to go. And this is now just the ideal time for that. So I'm busy with the whole project there. And then, as I say, also to internationalize ourselves through Excelsior or otherwise, and then just build a great brand and try and have a lot of fun whilst doing it.
So would you, this is an interesting concept, would you actually expand your direct-to-consumer business to sell direct to consumers in say, Europe as well, from a base in the Netherlands?
We're going to try that.
That's
we are
going to
going
be
to try
very
that.
interesting, because I think you're going to be one of the few people that actually do that from South Africa, which is actually very exciting. In terms of your direct-to-consumer in South Africa, your logistics, I think that's been one of the reasons why, why South African hasn't caught up onto the whole internet craze of buying, Amazon type thing, is because of maybe a logistical problems. How is it going so far? Is this improving?
Okay, so it used to be good. Obviously, the past month was crazy because we have got a logistic partner in, say, Johannesburg. And what we do is we ship a pallet or two of wine up, and it stands in the warehouse, and then we have it delivered. Okay. But they are really geared to do business to business, to licensed outlets. And now everyone is now ordering from home, and they just couldn't cope with the big load. So I think in principle, yes, everyone is set up, but no one obviously expected this whole craze to happen now during the month of June when everyone just started ordering. So usually in South Africa, you've got a few options. Either you sell to a wine club and they sell on, or you use a courier company directly from your home. That's expensive, but it goes quicker. Or thirdly, you've got a warehousing solution where you carry stock in the regions and then you deliver from there. So it'll take you a bit of longer time to get it to the consumer, but it'll be more affordable. And unfortunately, courier charges, sometimes people see that as a barrier to entry. They think it's too expensive. But I still think overall, I think it's still worth your while rather than having to go down to, say, a supermarket or a restaurant and buy the wines there at an even higher sort of markup. But no one has really figured that out. And obviously, wine is different from other consumer goods. If you go on Takealot or Amazon, it's easy to buy something that's really sort of a consumer item. But wine, people still want to taste the wine, feel it. There's sort of a tangibility there. So people are getting into wine business e-commerce wise, but I think it's a different way of telling a story relative to other consumer goods.
I think I just wanted to ask you before I ask my next question is things like a third-party solution like Takealot, is that a solution or not really?
It's hard to judge. I know about brands. I mean, Takealot's a fantastic brand, make no mistake. I'm not sure how big they are in wine. For some people it is. For other people, they say, no, rather spend your time on your own wine club, sell it or like just online, or go to wine clubs that specialize in wine sales. I think the jury is still out of that one.
Well, I think, I talked about Empathy Wines, and I think the secret was actually exactly what you're saying, brand. The guys managed to build a brand in a very short time, and I think that wins the game in the direct-to-consumer business. But so on that is, how are you going to differentiate your brand from other? Because I mean, every wine business now is putting up an e-commerce shop and trying to go this route. So how are you going to differentiate your brand and build your brand in this area?
And that's an excellent question. We said we've got one of two options. Either we try to be unique or we try to be ourselves. And we thought we'd rather be ourselves. So, there are thousands of wine brands out there. We can't be 100% unique. That's just impossible. But what we are going to do is we're going to try and be focused and disciplined. So we say, A, we're a family business. B, we are Stellenbosch. So all our wines are one of origin Stellenbosch. That means that we're not going to compete at different price points in different regions. That's what we do, even if it costs a bit more. And then we're going to focus on that, let's say, handcrafted, bespoke storytelling image. Even our marketing on social media and otherwise is just focused on that, on just good, honest wines delivered to your door, one of origin Stellenbosch, sense of place. Here's the vineyard, here's the view on Table Mountain, and this is the type of wines that we sell. Hopefully quite a, let's say, a humble, accessible type of approach rather than being too big and flashy.
I think what you're saying is right, but also, the fact that you're going to be yourselves means that, and you mentioned the concept of storytelling and also social media. I think social media is the perfect platform to tell a story. I mean, we've got all the things like YouTube and Facebook and, so how are you guys actually, are you investing in that, in getting your story documented and telling that story? Because I think long-term, that story is what builds your brand.
Exactly. So what I strongly suggest is that if you want to do something, have a strong content plan. You can't just start telling a story. So what we do is For instance, there are 4 weeks in a month, and we say every week we do something else. We've got a fan of the month, then a recipe of the month, then a newsworthy event of the month, and then I recorded a video series with my dad. And as I say, unfortunately, he passed away recently, but that's a great 7-series sort of series where I interviewed him. We talked about Friesland, and every month I'm going to post one of those. So it seems like it's very spontaneous, which it is to an extent, but at the back end, I strongly believe that there's got to be strategic planning. And so if you want to tell a story, what is the story? And then how do you tell it? And make sure you sort of make it in a very disciplined, focused, strategic journey that you actually take the consumer on, rather than just saying, hey, I'm having a good sip of wine, do you like my wine? Because that's a bit empty. I mean, everyone can do that. The story must be very, very intentional.
Very, very interesting. I mean, you can see you have international experience, and your KWV experience comes to mind. So that helps. So,
yeah, well, listen, I must just say, it's not easy. Eh? There are so many wine brands, and the one is cheaper than the other. It's not easy, make no mistake. But I believe you can't take over the whole world, but there will be enough people that like your wine, and then I suppose that must be good enough for you. And for us, it is.
I think to win in the direct consumer business, it's really that you've got to build brand rather than go for short-term sales. You know, you've got two concepts. You've got the one where you've got a sales funnel, you have a mailing list, you have a special, you collect email addresses, and then you just keep on selling. But ultimately, I think that's going to lose to somebody who's building a long-term brand that has a story that people start telling to other people.
Yes.
In the short term, it takes a bit longer, but in the long term, I think that is where we are going to. Because if you think about yourself and your use of your smartphone, how many times do you actually consume content, and how many times do you actually look at an ad? I think the world of advertising is gone. It's all about your right content, right?
Exactly.
So that's very, very interesting. Your wine journey, I mean, yes, it's been quite interesting and diverse. What is the most important thing that you've learned?
I know it's going to sound cliche, but relationships are really everything. Most of the people that I work with these days are people that I've met along the way and that I got along well with, and they're still friends and partners in some sort of way, whether it's getting wine from or selling wine to or marketing or working together or importing the market. So that's critically important. I think in the wine game, it is a feel-good game. When you go to a big wine fair internationally, people are still laughing and toasting, and you should never sort of lose that. So yes, it's a business. You need to be commercially astute. You must understand your product costings, the value chain, what it ends up on shelf, what all the AMP or the marketing stuff and the operations that you need to spend. So you need to understand the numbers, make no mistake. That's one piece, but then as I say, relationships are critically important. If you can get along with people and make decent wine and understand numbers, then I think you've got a winning recipe. It's easier said than done, but I think that's the ideal.
Oh, that's awesome. So the brain, I mean, you're in the wine industry, so you have to give us either your own wine quote, or you can steal one from somebody else, your favorite wine quote.
I'm going to say add value. And that means everything. Add value to life. Just be a decent person. Make decent wine. Don't try and be difficult or make life difficult for your consumers or try and screw anyone. Just add value. If you're a decent person, you sell a decent bottle of wine, you're going to make decent friends and you're going to have a great time.
Oh, very, 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 very good quote. Thank you very much.
It's quite simplistic, but yeah, that's the motto I live by.
I like it. I like it. Add value. I mean, that's what we try to do in life, right? To everyone we meet. So, if people want to get hold of you, I mean, you were just saying direct to consumer. So consumers are listening. How do they get hold of you, Debrine?
Yeah, thank you for that, Will. So obviously our website, www.frieslandwines.com, or they can send an email to me or my wife. Mine is Debrine, DEBRUIN, @frieslandwines.com, or my wife, Marilise, MARILISE, Marilise @frieslandwines.com. But everything is on our website as well. And obviously we're on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram, and the Friesland Wines.
Okay, awesome. So what we'll do is we'll actually put all the links in the description below this recording, so that people can get that. And all that's left for me is to say thank you, Debrine, for spending the time. I know you've been busy. You're busy, and also, you know, you have to make new plans because of recent events. So thank you very much for spending the time, and it's appreciated.
Thank you all, and please come and visit me when it's spring. We are going to sit there in the vineyards and we're going to toast on good times. We're going to have a great glass of wine together in the Stellenbosch vineyards. Thank you so much.
That would be great. Thank you very much. Cheers.
Thanks, Will. Talk to you soon.
Thank you for supporting our show. If you would like to get more exposure for your business, please have a look at our sponsorship options. Thanks again for supporting About the Winelands. Please follow us on YouTube and on our social media channels. All details and links are in the description. Welcome to About the Winelands. In this show, we will be chatting to leaders, influencers, wine producers, restaurants, and other role players. Tune in every week for our latest episode. You will find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram TV, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcast. Hi everyone, and welcome back to About the Winelands. Today I'm speaking to Gerard van der Walt. Gerard is the CEO of Paardeberg Winery. Welcome to About the Winelands, Gerard.
Thank you, Will. It's a great pleasure to be with you this morning.
No, it's our pleasure to have you, and thank you for taking the time. I know you guys are busy.
Yeah, of course, the world is upside down, and we have to deal with what we've been given. So we are making all sorts of plans to see this through and make sure that we're continuing in business, but it certainly is a busy time.
So Gerard, what would be interesting is if you could tell our listeners how you got involved in, a bit about yourself and how you became involved in the wine industry.
Sure. Sure. It started many years ago. So after I completed my articles, I decided to leave auditing, and I started as a financial accountant in the old Stellenbosch Farmers Winery. That was 1989. So I guess you can call me a veteran of 31 years in the wine business. And yeah, through starting at SFW, I've worked in different departments, finance, and then later on into corporate strategy. Eventually, it took me to the US, where I launched Savannah Cider in the US for SFW. But at the same time, that's when SFW and Distillers Corporation formed Distel. So I really went over under the Distel banner. And then shortly after that, they asked me to run the European operations for Distel, sales marketing operation from London. And that's where I spent a number of years before I returned back to Cape Town, back into a strategy role at the head office of Distel in Stellenbosch. Yeah, so I left Distel, I think it was just 2 or 3 years after returning back from overseas. And for the last 10 years, I've been at Paardeberg, where I'm the CEO and looking after the business development for the company. So yeah, that's from a business point of view. But just from a personal point of view, I can tell you that I've got 5 kids, all from the same wife, and the youngest is 12.
Wow.
So yeah, I need to work for at least 10 more years, but I really don't mind, because I think the wine industry is great fun, and I love going to work every day.
Where in the US were you stationed?
I lived in Boston, and yeah, so we took the family over to Boston. We were there for quite a short period of time, because the merger of SFW and Distillers dictated the process, and I had to after about 8 months, I think 9 months, I had to move to London. So it was a short stay in the US, but utterly enjoyable.
Okay, interesting. So Paardeberg Wines, can you share a bit of the history of the cellar and the winery?
Sure. Well, we started in 1941. So next year, Paardeberg will be what you can call an octogenarian in years, but we are going to be as fit and as nimble and with it as a 21-year-old, because we are still very innovative and progressive in our thinking and the way that we drive the business. But it started in 1941 with a person by the name of Jan Rousseau, who got together with a couple of farmers in the area near the Paardeberg or Paardeberg, and he decided to form a cooperative and appoint their own winemaker, to basically achieve better pricing for themselves on a collective basis. So we adopted the name Paardeberg, as we are at the foothills of the Paardeberg mountain. There's a bit of an anomaly. If you just look at our logo, we have a zebra. So just to clear that up, you know, the Dutch, when they looked at these quaggas walking on the Paardeberg mountain, they said that's een wilde paard, one wild horse. Yeah, so we decided to keep the zebra, and yeah, so that's really something that distinguishes us, make us very recognizable. You'll see that through all our products and everywhere in our media. So since 1941, Paardeberg has been quite innovative. We, I think, was one of the first people to really appoint a viticulturist in those days. But I think we really were put on the map by somebody by the name of Joseph Huskinson, who was a winemaker at Paardeberg for 38 years. And he was trained under Günter Brösel at Niederberg. So he brought a whole lot of knowledge to Paardeberg and really, you know, put us on the map in terms of winemaking. And then from there on, yeah, it just progressed. Nowadays, we are what we call a group of companies, where we have two facilities that process grapes. One at Paardeberg in the Paarl area, and then the other one at Bottleray in Stellenbosch. We're also renting another facility from Boland in Paarl. So we have got quite a diverse and big business. We have 32 shareholders, so all producers from the area, and they supply us with grapes on a contractual basis. But Paardeberg is very brand focused. So what we've done is we've invested a tremendous amount in barrel space and small batch processing. So a lot of our brands are managed like an estate, if I can call it that way, from the vineyard, very intense vineyard management, right through to the cellar. So we have brands, we sell also wines to other brand owners. And then we've got some distribution company in South Africa. So it's quite a diverse organization at this point in time.
It sounds fascinating. Have you guys followed the trend in the 90s by changing from a members cooperative to a private company then as well?
Yeah, I think we were probably a bit later than the rest. It was 2012 when we made the conversion.
Mm-hmm.
But that was just really a statutory conversion. I think in essence, or yeah, we were already operating as a market-driven organization before that.
Okay.
But yeah, I think that was the actual date that we made the conversion.
So would you accept grapes also that are not from your shareholders or buy-in, or does everything come from your historically the farms that started Paardeberg?
Yeah, I think we've outgrown our normal supply base. So we do contract grapes in as well. But when it comes to our brands in particular, we're obviously very fussy, and we really just make sure that those are from the area. And we'll talk maybe hopefully a little bit later about our winemaking philosophy and how we approach things.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I think most of it is from the area.
So talking about that, I mean, you guys have expanded into more than just a winery. People can actually come there and experience things when they come to Paardeberg. So if a guest come to you, what can they expect? Or, when you are fully open for guests, what experiences do you provide?
Yeah. Well, when we are fully open, which is hopefully not too long from now, with the lockdown hopefully coming to an end soon, you can come to do some wine tasting. We've got a fantastic modern facility that we revamped, I think, about 3-4 years ago, where you can do wine pairings. We've got some interesting stuff there. We've done some chocolate wine pairings. We've done some different Shannon expressions, a whole variety of kind of trying to be unique to our environment and what we produce, kind of tastings. We have a restaurant. It's called Eat at Paardeberg. It's run by Rob Hahn. Rob is actually a well-known guy in the area, but some interesting information about Rob is that he was actually one of the the chefs that were selected at President Mandela's inauguration ceremony at the Union buildings. And
wow.
A few of them were handpicked, and they did a private function for him. Yeah, so Rob's got some history there. So yeah, if you want to meet the guy who cooked for Mr. Mandela, then you're welcome to come meet him at Paderberg. There's a photo of him as well, of the event. And yeah, so we've got a restaurant. It's really a family-orientated restaurant, so very easy kind of environment. Lots of open space outside where the children can run around a little bit and the parents can relax. We've got a jungle gym, and sometimes we also put up a jumping castle for the kids. So yeah, it's quite safe, kid-friendly, and parents can relax. So yeah, good food, great wine, and then yeah, there's also some venues as well where we can do functions, and I can maybe elaborate a little bit on that if you want.
Yeah, I'd love to hear, but I see you do weddings and other events, so I'd love to hear what you actually offer. It's always nice for people when they're looking for event venues to know what is in the area.
We've got a function hall, which can, so it's got a beautiful chandelier, a roof, chandeliers all over. The capacity is 150 for a wedding. So yeah, it's got some character as well. Beautiful wooden doors that was part of the cellar from the word go. So some old wood there, and it's got a lovely view. So a balcony as well, where you can look out over the vineyards. That's weddings, and then of course seminars. So for seminars, we can probably put in a few more people in terms of the seating, and it's quite affordable as well. So if people are interested, they're more than welcome to contact us and explore the packages that we've got for them. We have an area called the Kwacha. The Kwacha is a horseshoe-shaped tasting room where we can do bespoke tastings with a winemaker. You just book beforehand, and we can do a very specific tasting for you, and a far more in-depth for the connoisseur who wants to maybe just delve in a little bit deeper into the wines and the way that we make them. And then we'd also do little workshop or provide workshop venues for companies that want to maybe do team building and just break away with a small group to strategize, or whatever the reason they want to just hire an outside venue. And we can couple with that, of course, some fun activities. So if you want to do the team build and a wine pairing, we will do that. And we'll do that in our dryland room. It's a modern boardroom facility. Yeah, and then of course, what we're trying to do from time to time is also have some fun events. So about, I think it was 19, sure, I better think now. It was about 10 years ago, yeah, 9 years ago, that we started with what we call the Family Festival. We actually called it the October Festival because it was held in October, but there was no beer. But yeah, so the Family Festival is where we draw in a lot of people, and we basically just have music and eats and just a fun family day where people can relax and become very popular. So we've continued with that every year. And the Family Festival, hopefully we can hold one again this year. I'm just a bit concerned about when we will unlock for that kind of thing. But yeah, certainly. So we have that. We've expanded that. We've done the Pinotage and Biltong Festival at Paderberg. We started last year with the Chenin Blanc Festival. And maybe just on that point, Paderberg is very well known for Chenin Blanc. It's just such a beautiful grape that is suited to our area. And that's why we call the function hall even the Chenin Blanc Hall. And we also have this Chenin Blanc Festival that we now plan to run annually.
Are these festivals organized by yourselves as principal? In other words, these are festivals that you actually originate and organize yourselves?
Yeah, the Family Festival is a self-organized festival. The Pinotage and Biltong was a festival run by an outside party. But the Chenin Blanc one, we started with using a third party just to facilitate, but we do plan to continue with that ourselves going forward. And just to make it a bit more, how can I put it, accessible for the wider wine public, we've decided to draw in other wine farms as well. So for the Chenin Blanc Festival, we'll certainly invite other Chenin producers to come and spend a day with us and also have their table where they will show their Chenin. You know, for us, it's important to show the capability and diversity of Chenin that our country can offer. You know, we've registered the trademark Home of Chenin Blanc. So we do see ourselves as the home.
Very clever.
But we don't mind sharing our home with other Chenin producers because we think that, you know, if everybody starts talking about Chenin Blanc, it's got lots of potential to become one of South Africa's signature wine varieties, next to Pinotage, of course. Yeah, so we do events, and then we've got plenty of plans just to extend the experience for visitors to our facility. It's very safe. It's completely fenced off, the whole property. Good access control, and of course nowadays very safe. Also with regards to virus, if you're worried about viruses, you know, we follow all the right protocols and make sure that people are safe as possible.
Yeah, which is obviously important in today's environment. You mentioned the Chenin Blanc, which brings us to the wines, and you know, this is obviously the most important thing. So tell us a bit about the wines that you are producing and also your winemaking philosophy.
Sure. So I think maybe the one thing that we need to understand about our area and our wines that you will find in our brands is that it is pretty much influenced by dry land vineyards, so unirrigated vineyards, which we have a lot of. About 60% of our vineyards are not irrigated. And what we've done is we've really owned that platform as well. So if you look at our ranges, I can quickly speak to that. You know, we have what we call the classic range. And then we have above that, the vineyard collection range. And then above that, the dry land collection. Each one of those ranges will have a component of dry land vineyard wine in it. And we strongly believe that these unirrigated vineyards really produce the best fruit. You know, I remember one day also watching a TV program on the BBC where Dan Jager, who was the buyer for one of the big supermarkets, remarked, we all know that the best wines are made from dry land vineyards. And I certainly concur with that because it's small berries and the fruit is concentrated. So you have a deep color. You've got lovely fruit flavors because, yeah, the flesh to skin ratio, I think, is what makes the difference there. Maybe unlike highly irrigated vineyards, where you might find that the wines are not as deep in color and maybe a little bit less thinner on the palate. So dry land is important for us, and you know, we really believe that is what distinguishes our wines. We have a viticulturist that, of course, manages the vineyards. We classify all these vineyards into their quality, their ability based on terroir, history. As you know, we've got long history, so we keep good records, and therefore, over time, we've worked out exactly which wines, which vineyards, which slopes are producing the best wines, and we've, you know, obviously matched those and mapped it to our brands across the quality spectrum. Lots of hard work in the vineyards. We do very sustainable kind of farming. You know, it's dry land vineyards, a lot of it, and we do cover crops to protect the soils. We also use the ladybirds and some other what do you call the gogakis that actually eat the vitrus. What do you call it? I'm sorry, I'm struggling with English here. but yeah, so we try and do things right in the vineyards, but at the end of the day, you know, it shows in your wines. And then from a wine team point of view, I mean, we've got a whole group of winemakers headed up by Albertus Lowe, who's also been in the industry for many, many years. He's got red winemaker, white winemaker, and a small cellar winemaker. And they all work together. You know, I think one can safely say a lot of the wine's quality is made in the vineyards. And then in the cellar, of course, you have an opportunity to enhance it or destroy it. And I have to say that our team has done extremely well over years. So if you go look at our website and the accolades that we've received for our wines, it really is a long, long list. I mean, I remember just shortly after we launched the Dryland collection, completely made from unirrigated vineyards. We won the best producer of the year at the Michelangelo, and it was mostly those wines
Wow.
that really came through. And it was just, I think, 2013 or 2014, somewhere there. Yeah, so I really, if you want to ask me, you know, what really distinguishes us is the fact that we have got dryland components to our wines. And also maybe another interesting thing is that we do try and bring in very unique varietals and to try and be a little bit different. So we had a straight Cinsault. We believe it's one of the only dryland bush vine Cinsauts. We have a Cinsault Rosé. We've got a Malbec in our range. We've got Grenache Blanc. These are all wines that we put in our let's call it the innovative space, and the Vineyard Collection is the range that houses these wines. But then of course we have got also interesting stuff in our dryland and classic ranges. We do MCC sparkling, Chenin based sparkling, and also Pinot Noir Chardonnay based sparkling. Yeah, so innovation is very important. We recently also launched wine in a can at the very basic level. So we've got a range called the Soft Smooth Red range. Yeah, so maybe let me stop there for a minute.
Well, I'd like to ask you about the can wine, because that seems to be something that's going to become a trend. Do you think it'll become a trend? Will it just be a fad? I see the Michelangelo awards are going to now actually reward, or they're going to have the same thing for canned wines now that they have for normal wines in terms of their ratings and stuff.
Yeah. Look, I mean, if I have to say personally, I mean, you know, I really do like to drink wine out of a glass. But I do think we need to recognize that there's a young new generation coming up that you know, they have different conventions and different ways of thinking about things, and yeah, so we've really launched our wine in a can for that reason. So we are targeting young people across the spectrum, and we really want to, particularly in South Africa, draw also from the underdeveloped wine market. So, you know, we really need more people to adopt wine and bring them into the wine category. So, you know, it's early days for us, but if I just look at the reports around the world, and South Africa does seem to follow trends often. The US, for instance, has just run out of cans, and they said it's not because, you know, there was a problem with can production. The problem was that they didn't anticipate the demand. So the consumer demand was of such a nature that they couldn't supply because of a can shortage. And we find everywhere around the world, it's about sustainability as well. You know, people want to move to carbon-friendly packaging. I think convenience is a big factor. You know, weight if you're traveling on an airline, and I think there's just so many applications for wine in a can. But the important thing, I think, to remember about wine in a can is, you know, you mustn't see it as a cheap wine alternative. We really need to put the very best wines we can also in the can. Because yeah, it's recruiting new consumers into the category, and you can't do that with wines that don't stand up to the challenge.
Well, it's very interesting. You're talking about the younger market, and I think the wine drinkers, the young market for wine drinkers are now the millennials really. And, you know, they're also interested in things like you said, sustainability, but also things about additives in the wines, like, you know, vegan, the whole idea of vegan wines and stuff like that. Is this something that you guys are addressing? How do you find, you know, that issue?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, for us to go completely vegan friendly does mean that we have to make some adjustments in the cellar. But what we can at this point already tell you is that all our red wines are vegan friendly. And we've actually advertised that on some of our products, so that the classic range. We've incorporated the vegan sticker on the back of the label. We have done some trials on the white wines to try and move that over to vegan friendly. We, in all probability, will do so from 2021. For us, it was very important to keep quality. So changing your process to stay completely vegan friendly mustn't mean that you compromise on quality. And that's why we haven't moved already in this year, but next year, the white wine should, particularly for those branded ranges, be vegan friendly as well. It is quite big. If you look at the overseas market, again, the trends there, the Scandinavian markets are very, very focused on vegan friendly, organic, and that kind of thing. So yeah, we are very much trying to also speak to the vegan and sustainability audience.
Well, that's awesome. So we're talking about the Scandinavian markets and stuff like that. Where are your wines sold? And what is your, I mean, are you primarily exported? You sell in the local market? How does that mix work?
Yeah, so we are very much an export-led organization. So most of our wines, our turnover is derived from the overseas market, which of course at the moment is standing us in good stead. The rand that is quite weak, so export profitability is quite good. And the fact that we can continue to do business in the international market right now, although we can't do it in the South African market. But we already embarked, I think I mentioned earlier on, you know, that we are a market-driven organization. So we started exploring international markets, sure, a long time ago already, 2009, or even before that, we were in the international market, but we really stepped it up. You know, we've invested heavily in people. So we've beefed up our human capital infrastructure. Mm-hmm. And at this point in time, we sell all over the world. So from China, Malaysia, Hong Kong, we sell to Russia, in Africa, Kenya, Belgium, Holland, Germany, Sweden, Finland, Norway, UK. We do Canada, US. Yeah, you know, all different kind of markets. We've invested a lot of effort in exploring the African market, so there's a lot of time and money going into that, and also the Far East, so China, and then the US. Europe, we do good business in, and we continue to support those markets. But it is a little bit more mature, and we think that there's a lot of value to be derived from the US in particular, albeit that it's a tough market. It's really not an easy market. Many people have tried over many years, and it's not a walk in the park. You know, the Americans are complicated. They've got a 3-tier system, and you've got to get through all that complexity and find the right distributor.
Interesting. It's also interesting that I've spoken to a few places who've mentioned the African market, and it seems that there's quite a bit of growth and also maybe a premium in price in exporting to Africa at the moment.
Yeah, I think, at the moment, right now, I think worldwide pricing is a little bit under pressure, unfortunately.
Yeah, of course.
We've seen, particularly in France and Spain, the guys have actually resorted to approaching their government to distill wines just to get rid of surplus. But I think, yeah, generally speaking, your on-trade is where you can achieve the better pricing. In Africa, there's a lot of tourism, a lot of on-trade facilities where you can achieve good pricing. But there's also a good market at the entry level. So at the moment, I think that side of the business, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on where you are, is growing, at the expense of the more pricier wines. But yeah, there's great opportunity in Africa. If we look at the industry players in South Africa, they've really invested in Africa over a long time as well, recognizing that the predictions of Africa being a potential economic powerhouse. So we do hope that that's true. As I said, we're putting a lot of time and effort into it, and we're already seeing the benefits coming through.
Interesting. I see on your website you also have a wine club. Can you explain a bit more about that?
Yes, indeed. The good news is that there are no joining fees. So all you have to do to get yourself active as a member is to buy 12 bottles or more of our wines, and you can then activate your membership automatically. And then thereafter, we only require you to buy 6 cases per annum to keep your membership active. If you do, you can get 10% off your wine purchases at the classic range, and for higher up, you can get 15% off the vineyard and the dryland and our iconic wine ranges. In addition, you can get a free tasting for you and 3 friends every year. Receive 10% discount on venue hires for weddings, parties. And then you get invitations to exclusive wine club events where we will do wine tastings with a winemaker, educational kind of tastings. And then, of course, free delivery to all the main centers in South Africa if you buy more than 1,000 Rand worth of wine.
That's awesome. So if you're planning a wedding this year, it's a good thing to, before you buy the ring, to actually join the wine club first, because you're going to save all over.
Absolutely. So are you planning a wedding, Will?
I don't think so. Not yet. Not again.
Let me know.
I'll let you know if I hear of somebody. Gerard, the big thing obviously at the moment is the coronavirus, and it's forced all of us to rethink our business models. So do you have any changes or new ideas in mind?
Yeah, look, I think, as we are right now engaged in conversation across the electronic platform, that's clearly become a new way of working. People are, connecting in different ways. But you're right. I mean, the whole Corona thing has slowed down the world, and people are reflecting personally and also from a business point of view. Am I busy with the right model? Where do I want to be? What do I want to achieve? And yeah, it's been no different for us. I think the main strategy that we have, I mentioned already, is that we are an export-led organization. And we've invested in that channel exponentially, and we believe that this virus has really proved for us, that is where we should continue to focus. It is a big world, and it's a diverse market, so the opportunities are endless. And if you just look at profitability, it certainly is by far the best profitable channel. Now, it doesn't mean that you're not going to participate in South Africa. I mean, just to point out, and maybe I didn't emphasize that earlier, we do have a distribution company in South Africa called PV Liquor Merchants that does the distribution for our own brands, but also for other brands. So we do distribution for brands like Neertlingshof and Slanhoek and others. So yeah, I think we are committed to the local market, but the fact that we are export led in our strategy is a positive. And for us, this time in history has really proved it, that it's not a bad place to be. But then, of course, we moved to a virtual world, and we've realized that there's so much you can do electronically. I mean, we launched this wine in a can that I spoke about earlier during lockdown, and we had a virtual launch. So we had a whole audience of media people zooming in with Trevor King, a bartender, who was actually bartender of the year in 2019. Making wine cocktails for us, and we did it all online. And the next day there was a whole lot of media exposure based on this. So we're participating in international wine shows in the next couple of weeks, business-to-business wine shows, where you will be, your wines will go over to the potential buyers. And you can do wine tastings and discuss your wines across the globe, but doing it via Zoom or some other platform. So I think, yeah, definitely, you can really rethink your business in terms of your cost structures, travel costs, that kind of thing. And I think the other big learning for us was that social platforms are really the communication medium going forward. We all know that. And we've already invested in that for quite a number of years, and we've escalated that investment, and it's paying off. So, another learning is e-commerce and e-platforms for marketing and communicating with your consumers on e-platforms. That's the future. So get smart at that, get fit in terms of your electronic communication and engagement with your consumers. That's the way that they work. I know, we all wish that at some point in time we can just chuck the phone in the bin because we spend so much time with it. But it is unfortunately the way that people nowadays are going to communicate. Well, I say unfortunately, but that's the reality. And we better tie into it.
I think you're right. I think also there's so much opportunity. People, I think, always think back to the good old days before these things were there. But actually, if we had these problems we have now, we wouldn't be able to do anything. So I think technology is more of a blessing than a curse than we realize. And it's been like that for every new generation. There's been technology that the older generation didn't like, but the new generation found as a blessing, right? I honestly would rather prefer to drive around than to hop around on a horse or any of the older things. But what I'm wondering is the whole issue of direct to consumer, right? Understand if we're export driven, it's more business to business sale. What about inside South Africa, direct to consumer business, and also even internationally? Because the one thing about technology and the internet, it actually cuts out the middleman. I mean, that's been proven by Amazon and those things. How do you see that play out in wine distribution over time?
Absolutely. I think consumers want to have information about their product, and they want to be able to go back to the source immediately. So I mean, for instance, we've explored also opportunities like the artificial, what do you call it? I forget the terminology.
Virtual reality.
Virtual reality. Thank you very much. So, if you just engage those things, I mean, we've got the technology devices that can handle all these things nowadays. So your communication to your consumers is direct, it's quick, it's interactive, and it can be real time, and can update it real time. So I think you're 100% correct. I'm unfortunately, I'm of the old school, so I can't even think of all the potential applications of this. But it's the one thing that I've realized more and more is that you need to get smart people engaged in your business that can drive these platforms and speak directly to consumers. Now, even if it goes through the channel in which they buy the wine is not direct. When they engage with your product, they want direct contact. It's that personal thing that makes a difference. So yeah, you know, people also the platforms that people use to communicate are powerful things as well. You know, so when you give somebody a great experience, it is known very quickly by many people. If you give them a bad experience, it's the same. You know, so you really need to be engaged, I think is the word, and real-time engagement.
I think that is the big thing about technology. Does not really, it exposes us for who we really are. If we have a bad product, it will expose us. If we have a good product, it will expose us, positively. And where you're right is that I think the one thing that has changed is that as an exporter, you now need to actually communicate with the consumer, whereas before you could have gotten away by just communicating with your distributor and let them actually talk to the consumer. I think that is maybe one of the main changes, what I'm hearing from you.
Absolutely right.
So Gerard, it's very interesting. If you look back over the years, I mean, you had a very interesting wine journey from, South Africa, then to the States, and then to London, and then back to South Africa, and then, you went to Paardeberg, and now you're on this journey. What is the most important thing that you've learned from your wine journey?
Sure. Well, I think the one thing I've learned is that I shouldn't stop learning. Just when you think that you understand the business, it gets a bit more interesting and a bit more complicated. But if I really have to, say the one thing that has stood out for me and that has really made a huge difference in my experience is it's all about relationships. A relationship is something that will carry you through when it really gets tough. And we've seen that now in the past couple of weeks as well. People want to do business with people that they can trust, that they relate to, and that engages with them. So, that's the one thing that one must never, ever neglect in the wine business. It's a social product. It's a product that makes it easy for us to engage with one another. But it's really about relationships. And a lot of time and effort needs to go into building those. And it's something that you establish over time, but you continue to work on that. Maybe if I can add one more thing, at the business end, it's also about distribution. Route to market is so important. I've learned that you can have the best product in the world and the best message in the world, but without route to market, you're dead. So build those relationships, those distribution networks, those customer base relationships, and that's gonna just carry you through.
Well, amazing. Yeah, that's true. The platform that to get your product or your message out is extremely important. So yes, you're right. So can you sum this all up with your very own or your favorite wine quote?
Oh, okay. Well, I think I'll make it pretty much about wine. And what I will say is, a wine's beauty is in the eye of the beholder. If it works for you, it is a good wine. I think we need to embrace the fact that there's a lot of diversity in our wine offering in South Africa. And we've got different terroirs and different expressions of it. And each one of those brands have got some consumer that is going to love it. And at the end of the day, if they like your wine, then it's a good wine.
Oh, awesome. Gerard, thank you very much for your time. Just as a last thing, if people want to get hold of you guys, or they want to come and visit you, how do they get hold of you?
Easy information, of course, is found on our website, so www.paardeberg.co.za. we've incidentally just revamped the platform, so it should be quite fresh. A lot of information there, and also email contacts, etc. Otherwise, they can of course phone the seller. Our telephone details are on there as well. Yeah, we happy to engage with anybody that would take the time to engage with our products. Maybe come and visit us. We'd love that.
Oh, that's awesome. So we'll put all the links down in the description of, where this is distributed so that people can get that. So I'm just looking at the description below. And Gerard, thank you very, very much. I know you're busy and you took a long time, and you gave us quite a bit of information, which is great. And I think our listeners will enjoy it. So thanks for spending the time.
Thank you very much. Well, it's been my pleasure, and I do wish you well, and whoever listens to this, please stay safe, but also stay positive.
I think that is a very important thing that you just said there. Stay positive, right? Because we need to keep our mental and our physical strength. Thank you. Thank you, Gerard.
My pleasure. All the best.
Thank you for supporting our show. If you would like to get more exposure for your business, please have a look at our sponsorship options. Thanks again for supporting About the Winelands. Please follow us on YouTube and on our social media channels. All details and links are in the description. Welcome to About the Winelands. In this show, we'll be chatting to leaders, influencers, wine producers, restaurants, winelands businesses, and other role players. Tune in every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday for our latest episodes. You will find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram TV, Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. Good day, everyone, and welcome back to About the Winelands. Today I'm speaking to Deirdre Taylor. Deirdre is the Sales and Marketing Manager at Kanonkop Wine Estate. Good morning, Deirdre, and welcome to About the Winelands.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me.
It is our pleasure. So, Deirdre, I'd like to know, and I think our listeners will be interested to know, is tell us a little bit about yourself and how you became involved in the wine industry.
I suppose, like all good things in life, the wine industry happened to me by accident. I grew up in Cape Town, and I moved to Stellenbosch to come to university, and I was studying, I enrolled to study industrial psychology. And I realized during the course that industrial psychology was not really for me, but I completed my degree, and of course got exposed to lots of wine along the way. So a very happy accident. I started working in the cellar door at Morgenhof years ago, and that's where my journey started, and fell in love with wine. And I think I've been selling wine since 2002, so quite some time.
That is quite some time. How long have you been at Kanonkop?
I'll be here. I started in September 2013, so just under 7 years.
Okay, that's quite a while as well. So, Kanonkop has a rich history also, and also this with some famous winemakers. Can you tell us a bit more about Kanonkop, its history and its winemakers?
I think one of the most fantastic things about Kanonkop, so everybody involved here, really, you feel like you're part of one big family. And we're just under, I think we're around 65 people that work on the property. And for a winery that's been making wine since the 40s, and our brand started in 1973. That was the first vintage that labeled that the name Kanonkop appeared on a wine label. And we've only had 3 winemakers since then. So Jan Boland Kutsia was our first winemaker. Obviously, at the time, he was also a Springbok rugby player. So whether he made wine during the day and played rugby at night, or vice versa, that's what he did. And he's a very colourful and very interesting personality to chat to, and hugely knowledgeable. And you can still ask him now, so what was the vintage like in 75? And he'll be able to tell you, oh, it was this or that, and so much rainfall, it was a dry year, or this was a challenge. And he remembers each and every one. It's incredible. So we have a really long history of of very, I'd say, big characters, big personalities, and also hugely talented winemakers that have worked on the property. But we've actually only, as I said, had 3. So Jan Boland was our first. And then obviously he left to take over the reins at Friesenhof, and where he carried on making wine there. And then Beyers joined us in 1980. And obviously in the 80s, tough time for wine industry in South Africa, and obviously everyone still under apartheid, but it was under the curatorship or under the winemaking or the cellar master of Beyers that Kanonkop really started to become well known. And Beyers was also responsible for making the first vintage of Paul Sauer. So Paul Sauer started in 81, which is our flagship Bordeaux blend, and he was the winemaker to make the very first one. And Beyers, we still see him around on the property quite often. Him and Aubrey are really good friends, and we do joint tastings with them. And often when I travel overseas, we'll do pinotage masterclasses or pinotage events, and Kanonkop and Beyers Cliff would be involved. So he's very much sort of a presence on the property, and we see him often. And also a very personable guy. He's incredibly good storyteller, and he's very engaging, and people can relate to him. So on top of being a great winemaker, he also has a great personality that people love to chat to and enjoy. And Beyers was our winemaker up until 2003, and then Aubrey joined. Aubrey, who's our current winemaker, was actually making wine at Swartland Co-op. And Beyers met him, and he brought Aubrey on as his assistant in 2002. And then Beyers fell ill over harvest, so Aubrey ended up doing the 2003 vintage on his own. And then Beyers later left, and he went over to Beyers Cliff. And Beyers Cliff at the time was a winery and a cellar that the owners of Kanonkop and Beyers owned together. And then later the Kriegers sold off their portion. But so Beyers, effectively, he went over to his own winery, which he still has today. And then Aubrey took over as winemaker from 2003, and is our winemaker still today. So for a winery that's been making wines for all these years, only to have 3 winemakers is really significant from a legacy point of view, from a consistency of style point of view, but also from a great understanding of what the property and what the vineyards have to offer. A vineyard, it takes a long time for you to understand what one particular vineyard is going to give you. What a dry looks like versus a wet season, what cover crops work well, and then which vineyards do you combine best, what barrels to use, what barrels you combine best. So I think Aubrey has an incredible knowledge of the property, and that would be difficult to pass on, and it takes personal experience and working with all of those elements for many years to have a true understanding, and that's part of what makes Kanonkop so successful. And the other thing is that each of those winemakers have made a Kanonkop style of wine. They haven't made their own style, if I could put it that way. So if you taste through 40 years of Kanonkop wines, and you didn't know where one winemaker finished and another started, you'd be hard pressed to find, where one winemaker started and the other one finished, because there's such an incredible consistency and Kanonkopness, consistency of style through all of those wines. So the Kanonkop is a family-owned winery, Johan and Paul Krieger, that own the property, 2 brothers, and they inherited the farm from their mom, who was a Sauer, and her father was Paul Sauer, and his father was J.W. Sauer. So it's a 4th generation family property that passed from the Sauer to Krieger family through marriage, and we've always kept things quite simple. And simple, I don't mean in a lack of complexity way. I just mean that we're really focused. And Johan always stipulates, that his ethos. We talked about being back to the future. So he does what he does well. We do what we do well. We don't try and reinvent the wheel. We don't have restaurants, hotels, big events, big functions. That's not what we're about. We're a winemaking property. We have a great cellar. We focus on red wines, and even more so, we focus on 2 grape varieties, Pinotage and Cabernet. So we like to keep things quite simple and uncomplicated, and focus on what we do well. And I think that's had a very big impact on the business and on the cellar and how we do things. And I think it also puts us a little bit aside from some of the wineries that do a whole host of things. I mean, you can find wineries that do everything from sparkling to port, sweet and dry, white and red, and that becomes difficult and it becomes complicated when trying to bring across a brand message and trying to build a portfolio. So I've always enjoyed Johan's approach in that, is that we do what we do and we do it well and to the best of our ability. And if we do something that we can't do best, we just stop doing it, basically. So in the 80s, we were a complete fruit salad. We grew Sauvignon and Chenin and Pinot Noir. It was decided that we were never going to make the best Sauvignon. We were never going to make the best Pinot Noir. So why try? Stop, focus on what we do well, and build success on it. And I think, that gives you some idea of the background and where we've come from. And if you look at our portfolio, we make the most wines now we've ever made. So we have a rosé, which is the only non-red, which is made 100% from Pinotage in the Cadet range. Then we have the Cape blend, which was the original Cadet. It came out as Cadet Dry Red or Druroy, and it was effectively everything not good enough to be part of the top estate wines. And the first vintage we made of the Cape blend was 1985. Then we released the Cadet Pinotage in 2013. And now, last year, we released a Cadet Cabernet Sauvignon for the first time, which is currently exclusive to Woolworths and to our cellar door. And then in the estate wines, we have the Estate Pinotage and Cabernet, which were the first two wines we made. Both started in 73. The Paul Sour, as I mentioned, in 81. And then the Black Label Pinotage, which is a single vineyard Pinotage, which we released for the first time in 2006.
Wow, that's awesome. What's very interesting is how congruent the wines have been over the years, and which brings me. You touched on it a little bit, but I would like you to say a little bit more about, why do you think this has been so congruent? It has to be in the winemaking philosophy somehow. So how would you actually summarize your winemaking philosophy at Canon Corp?
What Aubrey always says, and if you chat to Aubrey and Johan, is when Aubrey started here, he was told that if you come to Canon Corp, you make Canon Corp wine. You need to make the wines in the style and that this property brings about. So he followed on from where Bears left off. The vineyards we farm, obviously we look for improvements, but we make wines to age. We make wines in open fermenters. We use the same coopers for our barrels that we've been using since the 70s. I'm not saying we don't try and improve. Of course, Aubrey is consistently looking at how to make things better, how to improve quality. But stylistically, it's the same. We're not trying to reinvent who we are. We know who we are. We're very secure in who we are. And we try to improve and tweak, but not to reinvent ourselves. And that's largely part of it. It's that strong philosophy of who and what the property is. Oh,
amazing. So, I mean, you mentioned that your main focus is on the wine, and I mean that's what Canon Corp is famous for. But you do have guests coming to the farm. So, what can people experience when they come to Canon Corp?
So, if you visit us, which at the moment we allow visitors to the cellar door, but unfortunately there's no tastings offered at the moment. Usually, if you come to the cellar door, you can taste all of the wines for a nominal fee. So we don't exclude Paul Sour or Black Label from tasting. They are available for tasting. There's an extra price or extra fee to pay for the Black Label, but you can really taste some absolutely world-class wines. And then besides for wine tasting, we have an art gallery, and our art gallery is focused around local artists. Most of them come from the Western Cape, and we've done some really fantastic exhibitions in the gallery. And then if you're wanting, from time to time, we host some groups, or we have people that ask us for events. We have a small venue outside that we use for snook braais. And even those snook braais, they're done in the same way as we run everything else in the business. They're done personally. They're done by the family. So if you book a snook braai at Canon Corp, it'll be Paul and Ilse or Johan and Marie that'll be cooking the food, preparing it for you. Ilse will make the soup patat and bake the bread in her kitchen, or Marie will. And you get to experience your evening with them and with wine, which I think is hugely unique. It's not a restaurant. There's no staff. It's just you and them, and a very sort of personalized experience on the farm.
Well, that sounds fantastic. So, Deirdre, in terms of your distribution of your wines, I mean, Kanonkop wines are available everywhere in South Africa and also overseas. Is your market breakdown in terms of South African and overseas? Where's your focus?
We always try to look at the world as a whole. So, of course, South Africa remains our most important market, and we always will put favor towards South Africa. You know, even in vintages where supply is small, or the vintage was small, South Africa will get always get a good portion of it. And we're currently selling about 60% of our production is in South Africa and 40% is export. And that export we export to just around 60 markets. So we are quite widely available, but we have a huge support base, a huge fan base at home in South Africa, which is amazing. And I think that's where you want to be. If people locally and your neighbors love the wine, and Stellenbosch people come and buy wine from us all the time, we have a good support in our town. I think that's important. So when visitors from overseas come to South Africa, or come to Stellenbosch, and they meet friends or family or come to visit with people bring them to Kanonkop. They take them to restaurants and share Kanonkop wines. So once again, that sort of personal connection that people have with the brand, they share on to others. So although we make a fair amount of wine, especially on the cadet side, the estate wines remain quite limited in production. And we try and be as fair as possible when it comes to sharing out those wines. So most of the wines are on allocation. So for companies that we've worked with for a long time, some of our import partners we've been working with for 20, 25 years. And they have a consistent supply, and it's important. You build a partnership with your importers. We have good relationships with them, and we're a part of their business and they're a part of ours. We won't be successful without them, and vice versa. And I think that's we have that understanding and that support. It's incredible.
Oh, that's interesting. So, in terms of a place like Kanonkop staying relevant in a changing market, there's all kinds of new trends evolving. You know, people are starting to eat less meat and there's a whole bunch of vegans out there in the world. Do Kanonkop follow any trends, or are you looking at millennials as a new market, or do you just carry on with increasing the quality of your wines and that is reflected in your marketing?
On the first point, quality wines made well and of high quality appeal to a large audience of people. So that is first and foremost Aubrey's focus. You always focus on putting the best possible wine you can in the bottle. And of course, we always try and put it in the bottle at the best possible price. You know, we strive to always over deliver on quality for the price point. Secondly, consistency. So if your father bought a bottle of Cadet in 1992 and you buy a bottle of Cadet today, it will still remind you of the same quality red wine that your father remembers, or that he shared with you around a Sunday lunch table. And that consistency is important in times like we have now, where people are when money is short, people are less experimental. They buy what they know. Big brands tend to do better. International brands seem to do better. You know, if you think of, I read a great article written by one of the top guys from Conchiatoro, and that was amazing to see that if your brand is known and trusted, you pull through difficult times so much easier and so much better than new brands or brands that are not known, because people have less money to spend, and they'll rather spend 100 Rand on a bankable bottle of wine that they know than spend 100 Rand on something they're not sure of and they're not sure they're going to enjoy. So that's I think has been one of the most important factors for Kanonkop during the lockdown and during COVID. You know, Kanonkop has been people that have been drinking our wine and buying wine from directly, for 20 or 30 years, and they've continued, which is amazing. So in terms of changing and what we've done, Kanonkop our wines are all vegan friendly, and I think that's important, and we do communicate that. So no matter whether you vegetarian or vegan, you can enjoy our wines quite confidently. Making sure we put the best possible product in the bottle and put that product on the shelf at the best possible price, making sure our wines are available and easy to access. We, funnily enough, we didn't know at the time, but we recently redid our website and simplified our wine shop, our online wine shop, and that went live just a couple of weeks before lockdown, which helped us immensely. So we work with a lot of a great number of retailers around the world. So you can find our wines in Carrefour in Belgium and in Coop in Switzerland. So it's made it easy for people to have access to the wines, and that, as I said, was very, very beneficial. And if you look at how people are shopping and how people are buying, and the change in consumer behavior, less and less people will go out to restaurants for the next while. More people are obviously buying at retail. They tend to want to buy at smaller stores closer to home, and of course, online has seen massive growth. And we were lucky enough to be available in all of those channels. We work with all the major retail groups in South Africa. We work with them online, so it's been really easy and simple for people to be able to access a bottle of Kononko. And of course, if you make it easy for a customer to get their hands on your product, then they will buy it.
This is true. I think, you're mentioning the coronavirus, and, we all had to rethink our business models, and you've touched on it a little bit, but are there any other changes or new things that you have in mind that you might have considered over this period?
Kononko is always operated, we're a fairly small team. So it's easier to make changes when you need to. There's no big corporate structure. There's no, not a lot of, we're a very flat structure. We have sort of two or three levels. So it's easy for us to sit around or to be on a team, a Microsoft Teams call or a Zoom call between us and make decisions and make changes of what we need to adjust to what people are asking for. We have seen that more and more people want to, as I say, buy locally, support the farmer, which has been amazing. We're seeing many more people buy directly from the winery, which has been great. So the changes we've had to make is, for myself even, that I usually work with the trade. I have very little to do with private customers. A colleague of mine, Heidi Kritzinger, she manages a private client business. So our private clients and our cellar door have been inundated with orders and requests. And so we've had to, reshuffle our work days a little bit and reshuffle the man hours. So for those of us that are involved in the trade side of the business, put in a couple of extra hours to help us set it all. And because we're a small team and we can react and make changes quite quickly, it was easy to do. There was no big, meetings or things that needed to take place. It's guys, the cellar door team needs help, needs support, and we all jump in and get it done. And I think that's also one of the, it's been hugely beneficial to understand one another and one another's needs. But other than that, our business was already designed in the case that we not terribly. We had good on-trade exposure and a lot of restaurants that bought our wine, but we were most of the volume of our sales were in the retail sector anyway. And those are the sector. That's the sector, retail and online. That's growing. Obviously, online has done incredibly well, but we were with in that channel, selling to those customers already. So it's a case of tweaks and making sure that you're available if somebody has a need, responding, listening to what your customers are asking you to do or asking you for, and trying to help where you can, and just stay in touch and stay relevant.
Oh, really, really good. I think you mentioned a few things. One of the things was the importance of the local market, and somebody mentioned once to me that South Africa has one big secret, and that most South Africans know as many people outside of the country as inside the country. And I mean, I think this is especially true of your area there of Stellenbosch and surroundings. Do you find that word of mouth, I suppose, is still your biggest way to actually get your awareness and your message out about Kononko? And a second part of that question is, do you actually embrace new things like social media and stuff, which is almost like a technology word of mouth? Or is that part of your strategy?
Very much so, and you've hit the nail on the head completely. So as I was saying, we have people that have been buying our wines for years, and they're proud to buy Kononko and they're proud to serve Kononko. and they introduce so many people to the brand, whether they have friends or family from overseas coming to visit, they happily share Kanonkop with them, or whether they travel. And social media has been a very big part of our communication. We have a good database of people that we chat to regularly. And when it comes to Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, we work with all of those, and we try and build as much direct conversations as we can. And a number of the partners we work with, the importers we work with, have a similar philosophy. So yeah, I mean, I've spoken to, I've met upper South Africans, whether it be in London or New York, who are saying that they love Kanonkop and they've come to the tastings that we've done, and when they have lunch or dinner with friends and family, or invite them around for a braai or a barbecue, they're happy to share Kanonkop because they're proud of it. They're proud of this wine from South Africa, and they want to show, they brag, or they brag a little bit about what products come from South Africa. And I think that's amazing, because if you've been introduced to something around a table with your friends, or around a braai with some mates, you're more likely to take notice of it and to appreciate it. That works so much more effectively, and you're likely to internalize it and to take it on board, than if standing in a store and a promoter tries to come and tell you and sell you something. It's not nearly as effective. So yeah, if it wasn't for people that loved the brand and supported us, we wouldn't be here today. So I think that's been one of the biggest successes for us, is that personal connection with people who love and share our wines.
Deirdre, you've had an exciting wine journey. So what is the most important thing that you've learned from your wine journey so far?
Number one, I love wine. So I'm first and foremost a wine person. I always joke that if the wine industry had to end today, what would I do? I have no idea. Maybe I'll go sell beer. But I love wine. I love to drink wine. And I think if you love what you do and you love your product, what makes the wine industry so much better is, even in your downtimes, even in times when things are tough, at least you've got a product that you can enjoy. I mean, how do you wake up and be excited in the morning if you sell toothpaste or toilet paper? What gets you out of bed? And it's very seldom that you work with people that are not nice or that you don't like. And it's very seldom that you travel to places that are not nice and you don't like. So you're hugely fortunate in the industry. It is a lot of work though. And there is a bit of a myth that the wine industry is so glamorous and it's easy. It's really not. There's a lot of a hell of a lot of competition. It's probably one of the most competitive sectors in the world. And if you work for a winery in South Africa, I mean, South Africa is only 4% of the world's production. It's small, and not that many people know about you. And it's a lot of sharing of stories and sharing of products and engaging with people that you need to do to win them over. But it's hugely pleasurable, very enjoyable, and I've loved it. I hope I get to stay in the wine industry for the rest of my career. It's my plan, for as long as they'll have me.
Well, it's great that you love what you do. So can you give us your very own wine quote, or a wine quote that you've, that you like?
I suppose there's two things that I often say. When you have a really great bottle of wine, I describe it as, this is a wine I can sit in the corner and drink. The wine is so superb that you don't need conversation with it, because conversation will just interrupt your thought process and processing and enjoying what you have in the glass. So sometimes you get that really, really special bottle and you think, I just want this for me, I don't want to share it. But I think from the business perspective, and I really have always enjoyed I enjoy the commercial side of the business. I enjoy the business as much as I do wine.
Deirdre, that's been so interesting. How do, if people want to get hold of Kanonkop, how do they get hold of you guys?
In terms of reaching out to chat to us, or reaching out for some wine?
Both. Hopefully to buy wine and chat.
Well, of course, Monday to Thursday from 9 until 5, they're welcome to pop into the cellar door. We open, and you can find us then. We're happy to have a chat on some wine, and then also you're able to buy them here. And then our website, kanonkop.co.za, you can read a lot of information about the history, about the winemakers. On the website, we also have vintage reports for each vintage, showing rainfall and temperature trends. There's some video, a short video you can watch on watching the winemaking process. And you can order wine on our online shop. And then, of course, we're available, as I said, in all the major retailers in South Africa. And you can find us, you can find us quite often in all of your good wine stores.
Okay, that's awesome. Deidre, it's been a pleasure talking to you and very interesting. Thank you very much. I know you're busy for spending the time doing this, and I think everybody will appreciate it.
Thanks very much, Will, and for everybody else, thanks for listening, and thank you for continuing to support Kanonka Vessel, your wine of choice.
Thank you for supporting our show. If you would like to get more exposure for your business, please have a look at our sponsorship options. Thanks again for supporting About the Winelands. Please follow us on YouTube and on our social media channels. All details and links are in the description. Welcome to About the Winelands. In this show, we will be chatting to leaders, influencers, wine producers, restaurants, and other role players. Tune in every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday for our latest episodes. You will find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram TV, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcast. Hi everyone, and welcome back to About the Winelands. Today I'm talking to Rudolf Steenkamp from Haskell Vineyards. Hi Rudolf.
Hi.
How are things going there at Haskell Vineyards?
It's going well, considering the situation. We have good weather. It's getting colder, which is great. You can already see the vineyards are going into their sleep. Currently busy in the vineyards, doing a bit of field work, getting some cover crop seeds in. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Not much going on in the cellar now, just waiting for everything to go through malolactic fermentation and getting the last bit of wine into barrel. And then we just wait and see what's going to happen.
Fortunately, wine is used to waiting, right? So we just have to be patient.
Yeah, that's true.
Rudolf, tell us a bit about yourself and how you became involved in the wine industry.
Yeah, so I grew up in a small town in the Garden Route. I went to an agricultural high school. That's probably where my love for the outside profession started. After high school, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So I just went overseas and I started working on all kinds of farms. And then about year 3, year 4, I decided I needed to go study, and then I knew it was supposed to be something in agriculture. And then I just stumbled upon Elsenburg, and I saw that they have a winemaker's course, and I just thought that is perfect. And I enrolled, and I actually really enjoyed what I was learning and stuff. And yeah, that's pretty much how I got into the wine industry, is just by chance. After studying, I did a few stints overseas, harvesting in Australia, harvesting in France, and quite a few harvesting in South Africa at a few wineries. Got lucky in 2014, got a job at Valmut as assistant winemaker, and stayed there for a year. And then applied for a job at Grootconstantia, and I got that, and I stayed there for 4 harvests.
Wow.
Yeah, and then got this opportunity here in mid 2018, and took that on now. So yeah, here I am at Haskell.
Oh, amazing. So talking about Haskell, Haskell has quite a bit of history as well. Can you share a bit of the Haskell history with our listeners?
Yeah, so the owner, Preston Haskell IV, he's from America, and he bought this farm in 2002. Total of 23 hectares. This farm's name first was Dombeya, and that's because of all the wild pear trees that grow around the main house. Yeah, and obviously they had a wool shed here, and they spun the wool here, and they had citrus. And then when Preston bought the farm, he pretty much ripped everything out, all the citrus, took the wool shed down, built a cellar, and started planting vines. And yeah, ever since, the farm has been quite renowned to produce top quality wines.
Well, that's awesome. So I mean, you guys have got a few things going on there at the farm. So what can a guest experience when they're visiting the estate?
It's right smack in the middle of all these big, very popular farms in the Helderberg. What the guest can experience here is something very unique, very special, I would say. It's we're not as busy as the rest of the tour. It's not as touristy, so when you get here, there's always space for you. You know, you don't feel like you're cramped in a place, and you can pretty much have a 360 view of the whole, Falspy surroundings. We've got a restaurant and guest houses and all those things.
Yeah, I see that you offer accommodation on the estate. How much guest space do you have?
So accommodation-wise, we've got two types of accommodation. They're both self-catering, fully equipped kitchen, free Wi-Fi and DSTV. Winter is excellent to be here. We've got amazing fireplaces inside, so you can be snug as a bug. And then obviously a lot of red wine will sort you out as well. Yeah, and look, it's very secluded. It's quiet here. There's a lot of wildlife here. On average a day, I see at least 2 to 6 pairs of fishing eagles are soaring above the estate. So there's a lot of bird of prey here. A lot of buck in the wintertime when the grass starts to grow. And and the occasional leopard does come around, but they usually stay away.
Oh, well. So you also, your restaurant, Long Table, is quite well known. And can you tell us a bit more about what Long Table offers?
Yeah, so Long Table has been here for a while now. In 2017, the farm took over and revamped it completely. It's a great place if you really like unpretentious, flavorsome food. The chef now is Coronel Mini, and she's really talented. She makes probably some of the best pork bellies that I've ever tasted in a while.
Awesome.
And we took care and attention to detail. We make sure that the foods pair well, or the wines pair well with the food, and vice versa. So they kind of you know, it's a bang for buck as well. You know, if you really like proper food and you don't want to pay too much, then this is definitely a place to be. And absolutely breathtaking views, especially if you sit outside, you know, under the beautiful indigenous trees that we have. You know, it's something different that we offer that's not around here in the Helderberg.
Yeah, I suppose it's also important, you know, that you as winemaker and the chef, you know, you're mentioning the wine pairing, food pairings, work together as a team on that.
Yeah, no, definitely. So when we do a new menu, which happens, I think, every quarterly session, summer menu, winter menus, and then also for special events like Valentine's Day and all those type of things, then we actually sit and then she says, well, she wants to do this and this, and then she prepares the meal, and then we actually try it with our whole range and see what works best with it. So it's not just something, okay, this looks like it works with Chardonnay, because sometimes it really doesn't. And a red wine will work with this dish where you didn't really think about it. Yeah. So yeah, we take quite pride in that.
Well, that's excellent. So tell me, weddings and events. This is something that you also have on your website. Do you have other events besides weddings?
Yeah, so we do birthday parties, corporate functions, year-end functions, gala dinners, prestigious award functions, you name it. We can cater for all of those things. Weddings obviously is top of our list because of the setting that we have. It's absolutely stunning here, and we've got the two guest houses, you know, that can accommodate the bridal party and the, you know, and so forth. And also we can sit about 100 guests, so it's not a massive place. And the kitchen can handle all these people and still make excellent meals for a pretty good price point. Um, I had my wedding here 2 years ago in May, in the middle of winter, and we just popped up a tent on the picnic area, and you know, it worked out perfect. Summer and winter weddings here. It's both are amazing times to have it.
Well, that's amazing. Just a quick interruption, but I do need to remind you that we are currently in a very difficult time. The South African government has set up a fund where businesses and individuals can donate to support your country through this crisis. Go to the website now and add your small donation. www.solidarityfund.co.za. Please join us all in the fight against COVID-19. That is at www.solidarityfund.co.za. Now, let's get on with the show. So, to the important stuff, Rolf, tell us a bit more about your wines that you're producing and also your winemaking philosophy.
Okay, so red is king here. So we produce the classical varieties that's around here: Shiraz, Cabernet Sauvignon, Cabernet Franc, Merlot, and Chardonnay. So those are the few grape varieties that we have. We definitely focus more on the Cab and the Shiraz, and as well on the white side on the Chardonnay. These are the most renowned ones on our farm. But recently, I actually had this quite a pleasant discovery that I think that our Merlot is actually quite on par with some of the best out there. Which I think a lot of the wine farms can't really say because it's such a hard variety to get right. Luckily for our terroir, I think it helps a lot, and we can make nice plum Merlots. My philosophy to winemaking is minimalist intervention. Um, we work really, really hard in the vineyards to get the best quality product to the farm, or to the cellar, and then you know, don't work the berries too hard, don't over extract it, take your time, you know, make calculated decisions, and you know, attention to detail, the smaller things, because yeah, that obviously determines a great wine, a good wine from a great wine. Our oak regime is quite low. I feel like the Helderberg in general, you don't really need to pound it in with oak because it's so powerful already. Extraction from the berries, you know, that it's it messes with the terroir expression that you get here.
Well, that's interesting. It used to be I think in the early 90s it was a fashion to over oak Chardonnay a lot of times.
Back in the 90s, the guys were just so happy to get Chardonnay that they thought they need to put the best barrels to this new variety. And yeah, it was a big trend back then. I mean, I've tasted a few of the 19 Chardonnays now, and yeah, it's oak bomb. But
yes,
the trend is changing. There's a lot more people moving away from new oak now and picking at different stages of ripeness. And, you know, they're really starting to compete with the rest of the world. Not that they haven't, but I mean, like, they're starting to perfect their specific style expression that they want to achieve.
The amazing thing about wine, right? You can really, you know, it's such it's not a static art. It's something that expands. It's expansive all the time.
Yeah, it's just evolving every time, and there's new markets out there, and I won't be surprised that something after this whole thing will come, something new will come out.
Amazing. So, where are your wines sold? Are you exporting any of your wines?
Yeah, we do. We export quite a bit to Europe, predominantly Germany, but we do Sweden and Austria and so forth. We're currently not in England. We have Moscow. We got it imported there, and we're almost there in China now. Locally wise, yeah, we do have a few top restaurants that have our wines, but the best way to get our wine currently is just to go online and order right from the website, and then we can drop it off at your house.
I see that you know you have a wine club. So can you tell us a bit more about that?
It's got quite a lot of advantages. Obviously, you get first dibs on new releases, proper discounts, and good invites to all the winemakers dinners, events that we are hosting. You know, with us on the farm as well as on neighboring farms that you will get invited to keep you in the loop and just make you feel like part of the whole farming experience and the you know, the value chain of what Haskell has.
Oh, that sounds amazing. So, Rudolf, the coronavirus, you know, it forced all of us to rethink our business models. And do you have any changes or new ideas in mind?
Changing definitely. I think we are going to approach more online sales at the moment, since the restaurant and the tasting room can't be open, which will be key factors. And then also doing once gatherings start, we'll focus more on small group gathering tastings and wine dinners, as well as going to wine clubs itself that is there out there and host tastings and dinners with them.
I think the main thing is, you know, I read some research about, you know, keep on building your brand while things are not going well. If you look at marketing research, companies that kept on building their brands throughout recessions usually outperform companies that didn't do that.
So we try to get the social media platform going. I mean, everybody's in front of a TV or a cell phone or something, you know, so the chances of you imprinting some kind of impression on them, you know, is good if they swipe over you or whatever the case may be. So yeah, it's a work in progress, but yeah, definitely optimistic on that front.
Okay. So yourself, what is the most important thing that you've learned from your wine journey?
Do not try to force something, huh? The grape can only give you so much before it's too much. Work slow and attention to detail. Because in the end, it's the small things that is the difference between a good wine and a great wine, I think. Work really hard in the vineyards, make sure the plant is healthy and all those type of things. With nature and not against it. You know, there's a lot of people out there that try to force the plant to do something, and then it's an organism. It has limitations, and once you see that limitation, you can work around it and make it better. So that's pretty much what I've learned in a short career.
So, okay, well, let's end with this. Can you give us your very own wine quote or your favorite one?
Yes, I was sitting this morning and thinking about it. Can I do a quirky one or what? And then I thought, yeah, look, I thought about it this way, and I've said it to a lot of mates. If you can only drink a glass of that wine, then it's probably not worth drinking then.
That is a good one. I like that. I mean, if you like something, you need to have at least a bottle. I agree with you. Real, how do people get hold of you if they, want to get hold of Haskell? Where did they get hold of you guys?
We obviously have a website. It's www.haskellvineyards.com, Haskell with 2 L's, and there's all the contact details of our distribution there, our weddings, the restaurant, everything. All the contact details is on there. Our events manager, everything. So yeah, the website is probably the best option that you have to get in contact.
Okay, awesome. I'll put the links down in the description. Rolf, it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thanks for taking time. I know you're busy, and I appreciate it. You took the time to talk to us.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you for supporting our show. If you would like to get more exposure for your business, please have a look at our sponsorship options. Thanks again for supporting About the Winelands. Please follow us on YouTube and on our social media channels. All details and links are in the description. Welcome to About the Winelands. In this show, we will be chatting to leaders, influencers, wine producers, restaurants, and other role players. Tune in every Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday for your latest episodes. You will find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram TV, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcast. Before we start the show, I need to share something really exciting. It's called the About the Winelands pop-up. And if you want to get your customers excited about your lockdown or online specials, you need to email us right now. Email us at visitthewinelands@gmail.com and add Winelands pop-up to the subject line. Who knows? We might just make you an offer you cannot refuse. That is visitthewinelands@gmail.com. Now, on with the show. Good day, everyone. Today I'm speaking to Lisa from Lisa Loves Wines. Welcome, Lisa, to About the Winelands.
Yes, thank you. Thank you very much for the invite.
So, Lisa, tell me, how are you enjoying your lockdown period? Are you having a good time?
Well, to be honest with you, I'm enjoying the 2 hours extra a day. It's quite refreshing. To wake up refreshed every morning is a nice thing. I've never been a morning person, so well, that's quite nice. And otherwise, I must be honest with you, I enjoyed the time with my kids and my family. It was all an unusual experience, something we most probably will never have again. But I think it can slowly but surely come to an end now. I'd love to go walk on the beach and go back into the winelands. I miss it terribly.
So, talking about the winelands, how did you get involved in the wine industry?
I went to Stellenbosch University.
Oh, that's a good way to start, right?
Yes, I think so too. Yes, a university in the winelands. So it's everyone was sort of involved in the wine industry. No, seriously, I at that stage I was romantically involved with the person who's my husband now, and he was as a winemaker, and all the events we went to, everything was around wine, and it united us because it meant meeting people, eating great food, and having great moments together, and we just loved it. It was a nice industry to be in, and it involved and connected a lot of different types of people. So it was lovely. That's how it started. And he then moved to Germany as a flying winemaker. And after my studies, I also went to Germany and stayed there for over 18 years before coming back to South Africa. But because I studied politics and multicultural relations, my partner was stationed in a very small remote little town with only one employer, which was at that stage the largest wine producer in Europe. It was also the only place where I would be able to work. So that's how I got into the wine industry itself. I started to work for this wine producer. And then once I returned to South Africa, that's how I created Lisa Loves Wines. I started Lisa Loves Wines with the experience that I had in the industry in Europe.
Well, that's awesome. So I mean, you've been in the wine industry for quite a while. So and also you speak different languages. Which languages do you actually speak?
I speak Italian, French, German, and a bit of Spanish, as well as Afrikaans. Afrikaans is my mother language.
Amazing. So Lisa Loves Wine started as a tour business, am I right?
Yes. Well, I